Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Yet. There
Now
we
we're
go.
hey,
Now we're recording. There we
what's
go.
up, guys?
Hey, everyone. We were just talking about who's going to be the first to buy a AI robot out of us. We're
Out of
taking
us,
bets. Yeah, out of us. If you think it's going to be Drake, put in the comments Drake.
put a heart.
Yeah,
Put a
put a
heart.
heart.
Heart this
Put a
video if you
put a
think it's
put a black heart because Drake's like that. If you think it's going to be
if you think
Cameron
it's put a rainbow.
or a cow or a rooster or whatever farm animal that
Rainbow
Cameron has.
colored font.
Yeah. And then if
Yeah.
you think it's going to be me, just
Put
put
a
a robot
walking man.
emoji.
No, put
Put a
walking.
Put a
or
smooth.
yeah, or one of the guys running or walking or a robot
And
emoji.
if you think it's going to be Sea God, put sunshine.
She's not she's not able to buy a robot if I don't.
Drake's like looking at his bank statement, like, what the hell? Why are you
He's
spending
already got a
why do you
robot.
spend $16,000 at Tesla?
What is this?
Drake, I want help with the dishes.
Yeah, exactly. She's like the clothes got too much. I needed a folding. Have you seen that
Folding
the
buddy.
Tesla bot that's like folding clothes? I thought that was
yeah.
when I first saw that, the first thing I thought was like, holy shit. Okay, it's folding clothes at this moment. That means obviously it's coming for retail. You know, like all those people that are sitting in Macy's or Aeropostale or
Dude,
whatever.
that's funny you said Aeropostale because like the one in Longview, I just saw some random article. It's closing down.
Yeah, probably because
All
you
there,
know,
yeah.
Wow, that's
Because
crazy.
that
So
video, and they were like, "Fuck it." I mean,
fuck it.
so we
We're
live
done.
we live pretty close to the Mall of America, and it's like apparently the most visited biggest mall in the US. And because it's like cold as fuck here. So it's like where can we go for fun where we can actually get out of the house and like move? So
yeah,
yesterday we went to the Minneapolis Central Library. It's like
I
four
saw
levels.
that.
It was amazing. We like found this back section. We didn't even know if we were supposed to be in there. It was like imagine you're in like the Da Vinci Code or some shit, or you're like some investigative reporter, and you have to like go to the back section of the library. And we're walking around, and Aristotle wanted to get down so he could just run. And so Aristotle just like running through this area, and there's this like old ass librarian lady. She's like, "Oh, I haven't seen a kid back here in years." She looked like she hadn't moved from that place, and she seemed really sweet. She wasn't like doing any weird shit. It was so funny though. But Aristotle just like running up and down the whole book thing, and I was like, "Wow, this is ridiculous." How many fucking books? It was like the most random shit. It was like the like economic statistics of New Zealand, and there's like 12 volumes of it. And then it's like the surveys and all this stuff from Art City, and I'm just like, this is really wild. All of these books are just here. Like, how the fuck did they get here?
While we're on this topip, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
do a little bragging. Just I've already finished. We're only 3 weeks. It is the 21st of January. We're only 3 weeks into
Oh yeah,
January.
you've only finished 6 books. Damn, dude.
I've already finished 4 books. Finished
Got it.
4. I'm still reading
Wow,
6.
we've been worse than I thought.
Most people are like, I looked at a book. I saw a book when I was at Barnes and Noble looking for Harry Potter toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my point for this too, is like, so that was yesterday's adventure, but last weekend we went to the Mall of America, and yeah, just how many stores we'll go into, and you see, yeah, there's like 5 or 6 people just fucking sitting around. We just like talk to them, try and find cool people for our clubhouse or for our office, and it's like, wow, these people's days are numbered.
Yeah.
Robots are coming in hot.
Hey, you know that list I sent you, that sci-fi list,
Oh yeah.
right? With the exception of Otherland, okay, which I finished when we moved here, right? I probably read maybe the last two or last book here when we moved here. So that was in 2021, right? With the exception of that. And then maybe one other book on there that I can think of. Yeah, like Cryptonomicon or something like that. I think there's like maybe like one or two books on that list. That's not even all the sci-fi books that Katie and I have read since we moved here.
Oh wow.
because like I've read a bunch that I didn't put on the
I
list because
had
I'm
a
like,
lot
I
of
don't see the value of someone recommending this to somebody else. That was a cool book,
There's been a
right?
lot of people who have messaged because so I have it as like a nice like PDF, and if anyone wants it, just DM
Yeah.
me the word future and I'll get it to you. But there's some people then they come up and be like, holy shit, like this is a big list.
That's just what we've read in the last not even 3 years, and that's just the sci-fi, and that's not even all the sci-fi.
Mitch, I DM'd you the word future, and I still have not gotten my
Don't
PDF.
worry, don't worry. I'm on it. I'm on it.
I don't know where that's at. I'm
I
just
DM'd you
saying.
future.
Drake, you literally have access to where it is. I fucking emailed it to djdegreatest@yahoo.com.
This way, people don't have to come to my house and take pictures of our bookshelves.
So
I
smart.
literally have
So smart.
probably 25 photos of Cameron's bookshelves.
Yeah,
Literally,
I don't
You know,
have
then I
that
learned
celebrity
you take
resonance
a
where people
video.
want to take pictures with me, but my bookshelf does.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
Christine has pictures of all your bookshelves and
Then you get smart with it, and then you just do a video, and it has to be slow enough. Yeah, Christine knows.
mhm,
Yeah, so I
yeah,
have like
This
all this
video is
footage from
better.
Cameron's house.
yeah.
What?
So next time you go to Cam's house, you don't need to take a picture. We have a PDF that
Well, the PDF is nowhere near comprehensive
actually,
compared to that.
actually, when you go to Cam's, there's just a QR code now in the window. You just scan it and it gives you all the books. You should do that, Cam.
Hey, that's gonna be so crazy. Okay, so I've been looking a lot at this. This segues nicely into so they're like pushing brain chips, right? It's like let's say this year's the year of the robots, next year will be the year of the fucking Neuralink and all that, and how it will be so seductive to people to go, oh, I'll just get the brain chip, and then I'll just like download all the books to my mind somehow. Like that will be
Like
there will
that's
be some
possible.
there'll be something like that that will get pushed. What I'm
Yeah,
noticing,
that's as dumb as uploading your consciousness to the cloud
right?
and
Well, it's
thinking
like
that it's
thinking
you.
that that's how the information transfers,
Right.
and so that's where I'm seeing. It's like okay, okay. We'll combine it all into this. Y'all ever hear about the fourth turning? That idea
No.
of like good times, great
Yeah.
weak
That's what
men,
it's
great
called.
hard times. It's called the fourth turning, yeah, because there's four sections of it.
Okay.
There's also another thing called the fourth turning, but yeah.
Oh, well, okay. This is the one I know. So
Heard of both.
yeah, okay, okay. So it's good times create weak men create hard times create strong men, apparently, and then strong men create good times.
I thought it was weak men create angry women, and angry
And
women
angry
create
women
Isn't it?
weak
create
men.
Okay, I know
impotent
you have a
men.
point about it, so I'll reserve my comments.
Yeah. So that is like the whole world system that has got us to here. It just and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Whereas the shift out of it is pretty simple. Just educated men create the best times. The best
Yeah.
time create even more educated men. And it's like then it's just a virtuous cycle, right? That's changing the system. That's best for all.
Because it's just using the word
Yeah,
strong. Like
yeah.
which to me is like it's a meme that makes people more receptive to like war and like revolution and stuff like that. Because it's like, oh, we got the weak times, now we got the hard times, now we need to fight, like that's
Mhm.
the so it's literally when the weak times happen or when the was it bad times, that's when there's war because they have to destroy capital, so they need all the strong men to go to fight in the war. And so it's literally just a meme that justifies all that. It makes no sense either because so do weak men create strong men then if you look at it?
Yeah, obviously.
And like
That's
the strong men create the good times. So are they stupid? Should they just create bad times? And that way they only ever create stronger men? Is there a value to
Right.
strong men? Because all they do is end up creating weak men. Like, so it's just like a stupid program cycle that no one questions. And people post it like when people post that, let me ask you guys, when people post that, because they're trying to make a statement with it. Like, what are
They want to
they
feel special that
implying?
they're. I
really
think
I
they're
think
trying
they
to
want to feel
say.
fucking special.
I think they're trying to say that they're strong men and like they're ready for this fucking hard times and you guys are all
I don't even
fucking
necessarily think that kind of person would want to do. I don't really know. I think people think, ooh, that's a catchy way of looking at everything. I'm gonna post it so I feel significant, and then people see me as more valuable.
Like,
Even
I
though,
somehow see through the matrix or something.
yeah, yeah. When in reality, it's like, no, this is literally just another Matrix program to pull you back in. But that's my point for bringing this up is it's so. it becomes very obvious what we do, especially when you look at the TT kids and how it's a new paradigm that opens up. And now simultaneously, there's another cool point I've been looking at, which I think would be really cool to hear your guys' perspective on this too. So the idea of having like comfort and an easy life, right? So the fourth turning thing is like, oh, if your life is too easy, you're gonna fuck everything up, and then we're gonna like it's gonna be hard again,
Sure.
which is kind of it's a faulty premise anyway. But there's such a push of comfort nowadays where it is like I see people are getting fucking soft. It's like people are like, oh, how can I just work the littlest I can? And how can I get the easy way? And how can I trade fucking crypto? And then I'll somehow get lucky. It's like this really uh, narrow view of the world, and you're just basically following your feelings.
Dude.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm glad you brought this up because it's like, um, I don't know how this thought got into my mind, but when I was younger, like my grandmother was, I lived a lot of my life with my grandmother, and she was very, very abrasive.
Hashtag lady boss.
Hashtag lady boss. Hashtag lady boss, because she built a
Angry women.
business, you know,
Angry women create
hashtag
what?
angry woman. Hashtag she didn't have peacocks on her glassware. But no, she was very abrasive and very like uh I want to say like hardworking, definitely hardworking to the extent of she was just like, you got to work hard. And so all the time she'd be like really pressing on hard work, but she didn't express it in the best way. Like you know how Cam tells his story of when he was younger, um, like needing to mow the lawn or whatever, and like dreading doing that. And it was just like it's just something you have to do, right? Um, and that's how my grandmother was as well. Um, and I'm bringing this up because somehow that either made me kind of against hard work, or it didn't make me, accepting of hard work. It made me like, I don't want to work hard. I want an easy life. And then also at the same time, I'm sure a lot of the media was just basically pushing like, you know, life can be so much easier, whatever. But I realize now life is not meant to be easy. Like, and like, it's not like, that's not the goal of life, is to just have an easy life. And it doesn't even really make sense. Oh, you know what book I was reading recently? Renaissance, um, by Van Vogt, right?
And
And
Vogt.
Talk
but
about not an easy name to have. I don't even know how to fucking say the name.
it's spelled VOGT. But it was such an interesting book because the entire
That's on the
time
list,
it's
by the
like
way.
it's on the list. But the entire time it's like kind of showing the assertive nature of the masculine, right? Like being more assertive. And it's cool because I don't know when this book was written. Like it had to be like the sixth.
Yeah, 60s or 70s, I would guess, just based on because he's one of
Yeah.
the new sci-fi authors. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I just found it really interesting because here's a guy who clearly sees the dynamic between masculine and feminine, and just like being assertive and okay, this is going to require some work. This is going to require me to do something, make a decision, and like actually like follow through on it. And there's this like kind of back and forth that the main character is having in his own mind of like, I don't really want to do this, but I have to do it. Like it's got to get done, and it's got to get done before this deadline. And he just goes and like takes action, you know? And it's this sort of imperative of like, this is what is required. And I think the point that comes up within me when you bring up, people being so comfortable is a lot of people are not willing to do what's required. They're just like, things are just happening. I'm just gonna go with the flow. It's just gonna, sort of take its shape. And if I'm in the right position at the right time, great. If not, something will come to me. I don't
Well,
need to
uh,
like do things.
okay. So so there's a very interesting thread here that ties it together. So I'm rereading the book Anti-Fragile, which is a really fucking like it's very interesting because he gives all these examples throughout history. You learn a lot about the world through it. I'm not saying he has a total fucking solution, but in it he talks about this idea of overcompensation. And the chapter is, I think it's called like How to Win a Horse Race, but it threads this idea really nicely. He explains that if a horse is racing against like less good horses, it will perform worse. But
Mhm.
if you want to get the best out of a horse, you have to put him against the best. And then he explains another way of looking at the same concept of overcompensation is like, so this guy, Nassim Taleb, whatever his name is, he used to be a pit trader. So that's like old school days back before it was fucking AI that did this. It was like people yelling and like trading stocks on the floor.
Yeah.
He said the louder somebody was, the lower they were in the pecking order. So he was giving this example of if someone's fucking shouting, they saw, oh, that's a rookie. Like, don't fucking listen to him. But the people they would speak intentionally a little bit less, or he equates it to like the people who like run the mafia or whatever. They would speak quieter because it would force people to listen to them. And then as soon as I'm listening to this, I was thinking of a time at one of our clubhouses when we were all chatting, like deep in conversation, and then the three kids run through and like, just like screaming, having fun, playing with each other. And it was like an older version of me would be like, oh shit, like I gotta direct this and make sure it's like, quieter for it so everyone can hear. But what I didn't see was because there's all this noise, it actually forces people to focus on the signal in a way that they wouldn't focus if it wasn't there. So there's like this really interesting dynamic, and there's one other point which threads it all is this the author, he says that his favorite place to write is in a loud coffee shop because all of the background noise is like a stressor, so it forces him to focus on it. So I'm bringing all this up because collectively, if we're not careful, because our goal is to do basically the most difficult thing in the world, which is change the fucking system that we've all accepted and allowed. And as we do that, it the real value of the group and the value of us building the events that we do in the clubhouses and the office and the business and all of these things that we're creating, because we're literally creating a new system. It's like we're using parts of the system to also create a new system. That is it's like going through the eye of the needle. It's like a refinement process where you're like getting chipped away, and it's not for the fucking faint of heart. Like there
Yeah.
will be some people where who they are on a deep level is just a spiteful being who doesn't give a fuck, and they will be the ones who just fall off. I'm not saying that's acceptable, and I'm saying we got to get better at selling. Yet, for the people who see it, where like who you are at your core, you realize, hey, the world is fucked up and I'm here to do something about it. Like that is what I've dedicated my life to. And you see it enough to where you start taking action. It is so valuable being out there on the front lines in the trenches, like doing the hard shit because it's like the pressure creates a diamond effect. And I see it as the most rewarding thing ever. I see it too with I don't know if we've publicly announced that Jess is pregnant. We'll do that soon, but you know,
I
You
think
said
you
it on
just
the
did it,
podcast.
Mitch, but congratulations.
fun announcement there, right? And it's like it's like there's so many different challenges I'm facing right now in my life. And it is the coolest thing. Because in the past, I used to be like, oh, fuck, there's all these challenges. I feel negative, like, this is fun. But it's like negative fucking 8 degrees. Jess is like having to chill all the time, basically, because she's like nauseous all the time with the pregnancy.
Man, you could really
Aristotle's
use one of those Optimus robots right now, man. I'm telling you.
Actually,
what a perfect full circle, right?
Katie said you'd be the first to get an AI robot
Yo,
once you shovel your cow's poop.
Just make sure you sign up with my promo code.
yeah, exactly. And so it's like that is really where that is so much the value of self-perfected and what we represent is having this worldly understanding. Well, it's really like this living understanding of what life perfection really is for ourselves and for the world, because they're equal in one. And as we go into this new frontier that we're on, where AI, fucking robots, Neuralink, all of these new comforts are coming out. Hey, just why go through all the trouble of writing something? Just fucking prompt ChatGPT. Why go
Right.
through all the trouble of learning how to take care of animals and a kid and all this? Just give it to your fucking robot.
Yeah.
And so it's like this really interesting dynamic that we're facing. But Katie had said this too. Shout out Katie. On Friday we were chatting, and she was saying how it's so simple what we're doing with TechnoTutor, building vocabulary and providing opportunity for the kids. And the kids are just the coolest beings ever. Whereas the alternative is, oh, just give them to school or give them to the AI tutor or give them to the robot, and the robot's going to teach them the lesson, as opposed to actually taking it on fully because it's who you are. Like, I don't know the exact words for all of this, but it's like this idea that I see really, it's like a resonant seed to download into everybody listening to this of like, yo, share this with people. Because when you're sharing self-perfected, when you're sharing TechnoTutor, this is really what you're sharing is the real value of life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because like that point that you're making is it reminded me of the word die, right? Of when you were saying we have to be uh basically we're going through the eye of the needle and there are things being chipped away from us, right? It reminded me of the word die as in like, the like being pulled through a die or like a cutting device, like for like to shape rods in a factory or you know what I'm talking about? Like and that's I think significant because we're in this world and we've gotten a lot of like some people will say cut the fat, right? We've built up a lot of bullshit around us because of the way the system is, and we've downloaded that system into us, each and every one of us, through our parents, through the media, through our society, and unwillingly, or not unwillingly, rather unwittingly, we've taken all this on and gone, okay, so this is who I am. And now it's funny, the people who can hear this, who are listening to this, they're seeing, hey, this doesn't make any sense. This is like, oh, okay, so we want to create a world that's best. A lot of the things that I do are not best. I've got to cut that out of my life. And also realize that that is not necessarily who I am. That's just something I've adopted because I've been programmed with that. I've been impulsed with that. Like people have been saying that that's normal, and I accepted that. But if I look really deep down into myself, I can see the moment where I thought, oh, I'm supposed to accept this, not necessarily that this is who I am or like I want to do this or it's something that I didn't understand. But you made a decision to adopt this personality or these habits or whatever it is, right? And now it's the time for culling all of that, removing all of that. uh if we are to move, if you specifically are to move into this new frontier, into this new world where we actually do have a world that's best for all, you
Yeah,
know
yeah. Because it's like the wanting the world that's best, needing the world that's best for all. And that's like on each of us as, I mean, I know everyone here, we're fucking committed to that. There's tons of others. Yet it's helping people see that at their core, that is what they also need. So yeah, there's that piece. And oh, there's one other word I was looking up this morning. So I was looking at that idea of like comfort zone. Like you don't grow in your comfort zone and comfort and all these comforts of the
It'd be funny
world.
if you had a parody of that song Danger Zone.
right into the comfort zone.
Yeah, that's so funny. Um, and what's
Die
interesting,
inside the comfort zone.
if there's ever if there's ever a word I could tell I'm like, I could tell I'm not 100% clear on the best definition of this word. So I look it up on Wiktionary because it'll give you actually the roots of the word. And what's fascinating is comfort, literally, it comes from the Latin word conforto, which means to strengthen greatly. Literally, it means together in strength.
Oh wow.
So is that funny? Because
That's a
like
very different
the
context.
system version of comfort is like, hey, like to weaken greatly. Whereas actually the best definition of that, I mean, how I see it in my life is like go all out every day and also realize we're confronting a system that is not best. So there will be moments where, yeah, you do have to rest and rejuvenate and then get out there. But the amazing thing is when you push yourself all the way and you're surrounded by people in person that are also pushing themselves and you're like supporting each other and growing, you can do fucking 80 times more than you thought you could. Like there's so much more you can do, and that is better than any amount of fucking old comfort you've had. Of watching the movie, fucking chilling, drinking your White Claw, whatever people fucking do for comfort, is so it's so
What is
empty.
a white claw?
Let's look it up.
I mean, I've heard that name, but I don't. Is it
Yeah,
just like a?
don't you have like dogs? Like they have claws? Like Bella has got? Yeah.
It's a seltzer
No, it's like fucking sparkling water with vodka in it
alcohol.
or some shit.
It's like
Yeah.
an alcoholic thing. I wasn't sure if it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
liquor or wine or
No,
something.
no,
Like
it's
It's a
like a
seltzer.
sparkling yeah, whatever the fuck that is. So
if you mix it with Mountain Dew, do you get a Dew Claw?
I'm sure somebody's doing that.
No.
I'm sure, yeah, I
Now that
believe
you've
so
said
too.
it,
But
I'm
but
sure.
also like everyone knows this fucking feeling. It's that dread. Like when you're not doing the thing you know you got to do. And like in your self-honesty. Because when you're actually pushing yourself, you actually do need some time to fucking unplug and go read your
Yeah.
sci-fi, spend time with your spouse. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So you do have to be self-honest about that too. And also, when you're doing some bullshit fucking resting, which is, yeah, drinking your White Claw, just mindlessly scrolling TikTok, whatever, that's fucking degrading you. That's what you ought to be ever vigilant towards. Where then when you do the right thing, that is fun. Like last time me and Jess watched some movie and it was like so fucking funny. It was like, it was just true enjoyment. I was in the moment. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, great. And then I know this morning I got the podcast and then I'm going to doing a TT presentation right after this. So it's
Can I
like,
guess the
then you're just
movie?
back in it. You're never gonna guess the movie. Me and
I know it
Jess.
was. You guys watched Leave Them Behind again,
No, I haven't seen the movie, and I'm
or
not
Leave the
even.
World Behind. Was it that was called Leave the World Behind? Yeah.
No, no, even better movie, but that'll be for next episode. People can come back and maybe I'll tell you then. Yeah.
I want to make this point about something you had said, Drake, and I know I'm just picking on this point just so people can look at it in a different way. But it's like that point when we say things like, um, some people just don't want to do something or something like that, or some people just don't want to work hard, right? Or something like that. And it's like when I really look at that point, I mean, I'm sure any person that you think might fall in that category, if there was something that they were interested in, they would. And to go back to like that point you were talking about where I brought up, like not wanting to do like yard work and stuff. But
Yeah.
like I don't have a problem doing that stuff here. I mean, it's when it's like really hot or it's like really cold, it's not fun to do that stuff. And yeah, that's when you have to really push yourself. But like I'll still do it because there's like a understanding of why.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like so I really just see it comes down to education.
Yeah, it's literally
You
that's why
know?
education is at the root of the tree of life, because you
Yeah.
understand it.
And education in this context, really, when in the sense of seeing why you're doing it and fully understanding why you're doing it. And I think that's part of that. That would be one reason why I always am pushing on bringing up like not just on the podcast, but like just when I'm talking to people, like all the things that are happening in the world. It's like every conversation I have with somebody, especially when they're resisting, like actually doing something that matters, I'm always like, okay, like, do you understand what's going on in the world right now? And it's like I have to give the person a mini, I was gonna say history lesson. It's like I don't know what you call it, a real time current events lesson.
Like a
You know
like a
what I
mini
mean?
documentary, like a little mini, like, okay, all right, so let me just like
It's like,
give
okay,
you
do you understand? Remember what happened with AI last year? Okay, do you understand robots? Okay, do you understand pandemics. Do you understand? Like you have to go into
You
all like the
understand
economy, the
transgender?
wars,
Do you
all this shit, and
understand?
you're like,
Yeah.
um, there was. Do you guys? I mean, I know you know Drake. I don't know Drake or Mitch if you've looked into this much, but this term called the meta crisis.
Oh yeah,
I was
yeah.
just telling
It's a really
Christine
good term
about
for it.
I was just telling Christine about Daniel Schmattenberger this morning, and she was like, "Who?" Daniel
Um,
Schmattenberger.
I had this
Dude,
video. I was thinking I could
he
play a
reminds me
clip of
so
it.
much of like if Terrence McKenna was reincarnated.
That's hilarious.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what
that's
Cam
right.
said to
Yeah,
me the other day.
you said. Oh, you thought that, Mitch?
I took a
That's hilarious.
screenshot. I was like, "Hey, did you see Terrence McKenna still alive?" I said,
And he
Are
sent
you
it
saying
to
that
me, and I
because of
was
the
like,
way he looks, or the way he sounds, or both, or
kind of
neither?
both. He's like a
Yeah,
philosopher with a
I
big,
was
a
like,
big
yeah,
beard.
that's what. That's exactly what I
"That's
was saying.
so
It's like
hilarious."
Yeah,
You and Cam
um,
had the same thought, Mitch.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's yeah. Uh, uh, I was thinking I could play a little clip of it. I don't even know if it's him or not, but it's like talking about what is the meta crisis.
Yeah,
Let
go
me just
Is
ahead.
it
play it for a minute.
the Moloch one?
Yeah,
No.
Yeah,
Oh, that
yeah.
one?
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
It's Moloch and the
Oh,
Meta
I said,
Crisis
yeah,
that we did
I
a
said
video.
meta crisis. I looked up what is the meta crisis. I
gotcha.
don't know how much of it we want to listen to, but I just think it'd be good to like use it and then we can like talk about it. Is that
Yeah,
cool?
yeah,
Let
yeah.
me, should I play the video or just the audio?
Whichever, it doesn't matter. It's still gonna get flagged.
It
What
get
do you mean?
flagged?
It'll get flagged because it's
Like,
on.
is that
It's
bad? Or like,
whatever. It is what it is.
Hold on. Maybe, what if I speed up the audio? I
what
probably
if
should
you
do
run
that.
it? What if you run
You
it through AI?
probably should
Make it
speed up
sound
the
like Kevin
audio.
Trudeau.
Playback speed. I'll do 1.25.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ooh.
Should I do 3 times? 3x it?
No,
I
don't.
go crazy sometimes. I'll go 2x and just binge a bunch of shit. I go crazy.
What is the
So
meta
fun.
crisis? What is Moloch? Moloch is.
You
Wait, I
wonder
thought
if
you were playing it
I
for a
wonder
second.
I have not looked enough into all the Destiny material, but seeing what like the understanding with Moloch, how like for example, if you ever look at like History of Mankind, they talk about like Cryon and Marduk.
Yeah.
What about
I don't
him?
know. I don't remember anything specific about Moloch.
Yeah. Or if Moloch is literally just what they say it is here. It's like the
Do you,
embodiment of like the system and consciousness.
do you know Moloch is like a reptilian?
I thought Moloch was an owl.
Well,
Well, it's like
Moloch is
symbolizes the owl, and then they like
Moloch is actually like the scientific name of a lizard, like it's some sort of bearded
You,
dragon looking thing.
you know there's an owl on the dollar bill. There's like a bunch of owls on the dollar bill.
Yo,
They're watching.
what? Drake, remember we did that power reading that one time, and you were
There's
reading
a
Yeah,
little
about
tiny one.
this.
There's a little tiny one that's like hidden. Like I forget where it is, but
Sense
it's like
the
super tiny. If you use a
Illuminati
magnifying
fucking
glass, you can
symbol.
see it. It's crazy, dude.
Mitch
It's
has
serious.
like a whole book on the symbolism of the dollar bill. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's badass. It's actually really cool. If we were gonna have a daughter, it would have related back to that, but
It would have
we'll
been
keep that
dollar.
for a future time.
If we were gonna have a
Dollar,
daughter,
dollar.
we were gonna call her Dollar.
Should have called
Cash
her
rules
Moloch.
everything around you. Yeah. Name our daughter Moloch. Holy shit. That'd be
Okay,
funny.
let me just see if this is worth listening to. We'll just play for a minute.
Redefine. Redefine.
Here you go.
Who is Moloch and what is the meta crisis? For further research, the ideas in this essay were inspired by Daniel Schmachtenberger's
And Terrence
discussions
McKenna.
covering the meta crisis, Nate Hagen's work on the superorganism, Scott Alexander and his essay Meditations on Moloch, Allen Ginsberg's poem Howl, Kevin Iwocki's Moloch Education. Moloch was a mythical and terrifying pagan god who was worshipped by various ancient civilizations. According to biblical records, to achieve fertility, prosperity, and protection, people offered sacrifices to Moloch in the form of burning children alive. Very grim stuff. Over time, however, Moloch has come to represent more than a biblical character. Poets, writers, and philosophers have used Moloch as a symbol to represent the invisible repercussions of the unchecked pursuit of growth. We'll unpack this symbolic use of Moloch throughout the essay. Fast forward from medieval times to the 60s, one of the most vibrant and influential figures of the counterculture, Allen Ginsberg, resurfaced the Moloch symbol with his poem Howl. And more recently, writer Scott Alexander expanded on Ginsberg's poem, explaining in more detail the traps that society falls into when competition and growth undermine our ability to cooperate and coordinate in his essay Meditations on Moloch. Most of us prefer to ignore the fact that the human species is currently on crash course with self-termination. Think about this statement for a second. Ever considered how it's possible that in the age of self-driving cars and neural implants, we still haven't managed to achieve global peace, remove the threat of nuclear destruction, or reduce a growing loneliness epidemic? Moloch. This essay explores the current state of the world, the superorganism and the meta crisis, why we're lacking the ability to course correct, Moloch, and what we need to do next. Humans are very, very different. A good place to begin is an understanding of just how different modern humans are from every other species on Earth. Orcas have been evolving for tens of millions of years. They are smarter, stronger, faster. They've even developed the ability to coordinate and hunt in pods. They are an apex predator. No other species in their oceanic environment challenges them. With one exception, of course, modern humans. We can send vast fleets of trawling ships dragging huge nets across the seafloor, extracting all marine wildlife, including apex predators, and their prey, without even getting wet. It appears to us as though other species are evolving slowly. In comparison, orcas, chimpanzees, and even termites are doing things in roughly the same way they did things 10,000 years ago. They are evolving through natural selection in a symbiotic relationship with the rest of nature. We humans, on the other hand, are evolving at warp speed without constraint. Nature implements checks and balances to ensure a single species doesn't become too destructive or overpowering. For whatever reason, we've broken free from the checks and balances of the natural world. How did we become so different? The superorganism. The story of how modern humans separated from the rest of the natural world is complex, but the TLDR is, we got really good at modifying our external environment and using tools and technologies to achieve specific or narrow goals. Narrow goal achievement is simply the ability humans have developed to plan ahead, modify our external environment, and use tools to achieve very specific outcomes. Other species have the ability to do this, but humans have become really fucking good at it. Narrow goal achievement has enabled many incredible things. Moon landings and the World Wide Web, heart transplants and penicillin. But narrow goal achievement is narrow because it fails to consider the negative side effects. Narrow goal achievement is a hell of a drug. It destroys any who stand in its path. It feels great on the way up and horrendous on the way down. Nuclear warfare, genocide, climate change, genetically engineered global pandemics. These are all associated negative effects of the pursuit of narrow goals. For almost the entire story of the human species, hundreds of thousands of years, we existed in a relatively slow evolution with the rest of the natural world in small tribes. In the last fraction of human existence, we've commenced evolution warp speed. We've developed a unique capacity to model things, to innovate, to create tools and technologies, and figured out how to achieve very narrow goals. To make this clear, let's take the invention of the plough as a crude example, a key development that contributed to the agricultural revolution. It facilitated the cultivation of crops on a larger scale, enabling more efficient food production and the development of larger, more permanent populations. But ploughs required the domestication of animals, castration and whips. Not so great for the buffalo, and also not so great for those humans who refused to participate. Many cultures would hunt buffalo and take what they needed, but the thought of whipping, castrating, and attaching a plough was unimaginable. By not adopting new technology and pursuing narrow goals, these outlier cultures inevitably end up losing. In most cases, they were conquered and domesticated by those groups who did pursue narrow goals. With this knowledge, does it seem likely that any modern nation will choose to stop or slow the development of nuclear or AI technologies? It makes absolute sense for the entire world to agree to abolish nuclear weapons, but we can't agree, because one nation feels that if they stop, they will relinquish their power to another who won't. And if history has anything to teach us, it's that failing to adopt new technology which enables narrow goal achievement does not end well. This kind of thing has been referred to as a multipolar trap or tragedy of the commons. Individual entities act in their own self-interest against the common good of the collective and ruin things for everyone. The modern human species has evolved into a globally interconnected superspecies lacking the ability to cooperate collectively. We've created an invisible superorganism which extracts relentlessly in the pursuit of narrow goals. We live in a fabricated and fragmented reality, straying further from base reality in the natural world each day. The meta crisis. The result of relentlessly pursuing narrow goals is the meta crisis we now face. The meta crisis is the totality of risks that we face as a species and planet. It refers to the interconnected and complex problems that are systemic in nature and can no longer be solved by themselves. Climate change, biodiversity loss, nuclear war, economic collapse, mental health. These things all in isolation present existential risk. But the more concerning realization is that fixing one of them without deep consideration could likely lead to the increase of others, and ultimately destruction of the human species. We can create more efficient systems of food production to increase access to cheap food for a wider population, but as a result, destroy the soil and biodiversity of regions. How does AI fit into the picture? Not all that long ago, the idea of a computer beating a human at chess was ludicrous. Then IBM's Deep Blue defeated world chess champion Garry Kasparov. Deep Blue used machine learning to analyze millions of past games and improve its strategy. Today, Google's AlphaZero is the most advanced chess player on the planet. It taught itself chess by playing millions of games against itself. After just 4 hours of self-play, it surpassed all traditional chess engines. In just 4 hours, it became so much more advanced than humans that it's impossible to calculate. Like many other new technologies, AI sits on a spectrum of possible outcomes. At one end, we cure disease, increase life expectancy, remove the shitty jobs nobody wants to do. But at the other end, we compound all the risks of the meta crisis. In a tiny fraction of human existence, we've pursued narrow goals and evolved into a superorganism, extracting, conquering, and destroying countless cultures, species, and biodiversities. We've become so radically different from all other species and base reality that we now face self-extinction. Do we think it's smart to create something we don't understand, that can become incalculably good at achieving narrow goals in 4 hours, considering we still haven't managed to effectively decision-make for the collective good? There's no reason to think any self-interested actor won't use AI to continue to pursue narrow goals until we accidentally or intentionally nuke or bioinfect ourselves. It's an arms race.
All right. Is it cool if I stop there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point I wanted everyone to get to was that point of all of these different isolated issues that are different problems, but that when you try to solve just that problem, you will end up creating more problems, like getting everybody cheap food. A perfect example, because I was talking to someone the other day, someone who's into ranching and farming, and they were talking about, we were just talking about like the soil and stuff and how, oh yeah. Because we were thinking about putting a new garden in, like a bigger garden, and I was like, well, we're gonna get rid of the grass and stuff, and we were talking about disking and plowing, which are two different things. And I was like asking him, what does plowing mean versus disking? Because there's people that used to talk about the difference between the two. Anyways, and he was making this point about how a lot of these farmers now are no longer they're doing something where they're just planting the stuff directly in the ground and not plowing. I forget exactly how everything was explaining about it, because we were just kind of talking about a bunch of different stuff. But my point was the idea of constantly every year like plowing the field. What it does is it ends up, I forget exactly how, but it ends up removing a lot of the nutrients and different points. I forget exactly, right? But and his point was like, yeah, you can plow it once to kind of get everything going, but you don't want to necessarily plow it over and over. And people are starting to realize like doing that consistently actually causes problems.
One
and
time
so
I went to Mission Jess's, and Jess plowed into my mind this idea of like plowing is not good for an hour straight. We were just going back and forth of like,
oh, Jess was talking about this.
Yeah, we do this because we had to plow once because we have a plot in our front yard where
you have to break up the ground initially. Yeah,
it was like a riding area for like 10 years with horses. So we plowed it up once, and you could tell because one area I didn't plow it and we planted anyway, and it was like nothing really grew even though we put good fertilizer on it. Yeah, it's so cool though with the garden, because it's like it's a way to see how nature and life works. It's like a small scale representation of life, and learn from it if you have education.
Yeah. Well, in any case, like a lot of the big agricultural practices that we've done have created the soil erosion, which change. It's like, I mean, you can go into all this stuff about how it creates like changes in the wind patterns and stuff. And like, that's what's driving the climate change. It's not, which is cool when you look at the destiny point of how they explain climate change. It's like, it's something that we're doing at a very deep level. It's not the hydrocarbons we're burning. You know what I mean? It's like that's just like so the narrow focus is, okay, we're going to solve climate change by stopping the production of hydrocarbons, and that's like the narrow goal thing.
Yeah.
And so
meanwhile,
we're going to eat crickets instead of meat. It's like retarded.
Meanwhile, it's like the digging up of all the cobalt and the lithium is like, that's what's actually driving the climate change.
And you would think like, oh, but like the World Economic Forum, which is meeting right now, right? They're trying to solve all these problems, but it's solve this by doing this, solve this by doing this, solve this by doing that. And it's not really understanding how everything actually fits together and how it's actually like, it doesn't matter what problem you solve, because all the human beings who are like, okay, let's say you have a computer, right? What's inside the computer is what's producing on the screen, right? Like the programming in the computer, that's like, you can't fundamentally get something different on the screen that's not inside the computer. So if you think of reality as a constant thing that's being refreshed constantly by all living beings, like it's a function of their existence, it's not like a thing separate from us, right? Then we're constantly refreshing it based on our who we are and what we accept and allow within ourselves. So imagine if within all of us deeply is like fear, self-sabotage, uh, spitefulness, etc. Like we're constantly refreshing that back into reality. It's not like, oh well, I'm going to go solve this problem. It's like that problem is existent because of a deep point within who we are. And that's why what we're talking about is it represents the actual change of the system. You do also have to externally change things. And a lot of that is because, like, see, the problem with one of the problems anyways, with the approach of, like, let's say Davos is like, they are the elite who are going to just fix all the problems for everybody else. But everybody else, including them, is the problem. Not that, I don't mean like in a humans are the problem, we need to get rid of humans. I mean like just what we're accepting and allowing within ourselves. So the problem is not us, it's what we're accepting and allowing within ourselves. And that can only be changed by us. And so if that's not all understood, then you'll try to attack these problems, not realizing what's the root of everything. So you can make progress on these problems, but at the same time, if you don't solve the root problem, which is the education problem of each person, each individual, it's never going to be solved.
Yeah, we have a lot of farming experts in our group, just so you know.
Are we getting like all this farm down?
Yeah. It's called no tilling, apparently. And
that's it. Yeah,
they do it in their farming operation. And Eloise says the technique is for keeping humus on the surface. I think humus.
Humus.
Humus. I think that's how it's
pronounced.
Gotta
put that through TT.
That's where I keep my hummus. I just throw it out there in the yard.
To be fair, she wrote hummus. Okay.
No, it might actually be the same spelling.
Is it?
Humus, Hummu. I think
it's one, but anyways.
I think it's one.
One M is the one with the
humus. Yeah.
Or hey, what gets crazy though? So we put that a cover crop last year. So if you plant like winter wheat, it will then grow. Like it allows the nutrients and everything to like circulate in the soil and like pull in carbon from the air. So we planted all this wheat, and then it started overtaking the garden. And then we had these like, our garden has basically turned into a freaking jungle. It's awesome, but like we also planted radishes too, because apparently they get really deep roots and it breaks up all the soil. And now we have a radish invasion, and like it's so fun though, because
radish means root.
Well, that's fucking perfect.
How did you know that?
Well, I just thought and it would be the root of the word as well. Pun intended.
I just thought because radical,
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Or like radii.
I didn't even know. Okay.
Yeah, like radical.
Sense.
Yeah. Radish.
Right. It makes sense. I like it.
Rad. That's why they call me the rad dad, because I get to the root of the problem.
Oh,
and I also smell like radishes.
And also, if you've ever tried to bite into, never mind.
Yeah, but these radishes are on some. It's the coolest thing too when you eat food straight from the garden. So there was some other, I don't know, one of these farming people I was listening to, and he was explaining how after 15 minutes of something being disconnected from the ground, like after it's picked, after 15 minutes, it loses half of its nutrition. So like, if you ever gone on a rampage in a garden and like eating a bunch of stuff like straight from the vine, or like within like when we hanging out in Texas and Max will like force feed you stuff, it's the coolest feeling ever, because you're like eating all of this like hardcore. It's nutrient dense, but it still has like retained the energy. Like I don't know exactly how it all works, but I do know it's like one of the coolest experiences. You feel like you're high almost. Like it's one of the most fun things. Well, in the summer here, in the winter, we don't really have that alternative. In the winter, it's like, hey, let's cold plunge, open the front door. But when people come here and we give them like a little tour, and then we go through the garden, you're like, look, eat anything and everything you want. Like there's no shortage of anything. So they like, kale straight from the ground and tomatoes, and you like literally like eat all you want. And afterwards, it's one of the coolest sensations ever, because you realize, oh wow, this is what food could really be.
Yeah, you could literally just pluck it. Yeah. So farming discussions aside, I guess the point with the whole Moloch superorganism, all that thing is like, or the Meta Crisis thing is just we're trying to solve. Oh, we're trying to solve these problems in isolation. But not only that, did you guys pick up on the point about the the focus on narrow goals, and then
Yeah.
when how the AI fits into it, because the whole point of the AI is that it achieves narrow goals.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
literally creating something. And then is somebody going to use that to achieve narrow goals? I mean, they're even utilizing the development of it to achieve a narrow goal, which is to
Yeah.
create a lot of money. And it's
Yeah.
like, for what reason? Just to further that. There's no like actual consideration of what will this actually do. And I'm bringing this up because I don't know if I sent this to you guys. I think I did. But did y'all see that announcement from Mark Zuckerberg?
I did.
No.
He's
What
basically
was it?
saying, well, Mark was over
Oh,
there
Zuck.
saying, yeah, Mr. Zuck was saying that they are working towards AGI, and kind of implying that they're very close with AGI, which is
Yeah.
interesting because
Yo, this is
Okay, hold on,
crazy.
but that wasn't even the point that I was really trying to get everyone to see with it.
I definitely had thought AGI was
He
further out.
goes, yeah, we're working on that. That's important. And he says, and then he talks about how many hundreds of thousands of like
yeah,
these NVIDIA processors.
350,000 H1 and 900. I don't know how it's HN
All these
100.
NVIDIA like AI chips, right? That they're it's
So,
like
so
hundreds of
basically,
thousands of them.
yeah, like they have all these GPUs, and then like 350,000 they have now, and they'll have 600,000 by the end of the year, which is just
These
like
are AI specific chips, the new ones that NVIDIA is making, right? The ones that when Elon Musk saw one, he was like, I want that, right? And they're massive, right? But he also said that the whole point of what Meta is doing is that they want to create the AGI and then make it open to everybody. And I was looking, and then I saw somebody like, oh, that's so cool. Like they want to do that, give it every, and I'm like, no, dude, like open to everybody, like as in, how everyone has a Facebook, everyone
Yeah.
can have an Instagram, but like, what is the actual reasoning why they're doing that?
so they can advertise to you
And
and collect a
monitor
lot
you.
of data on you.
To get exactly, commodify your data, like to turn you into a data collection point, so you can be advertised to, and other people can be advertised to.
So I was
what do you
looking,
think they're gonna fucking do with giving you AGI?
I was looking at this point of like, okay, a lot of these social media companies are integrating AI into their social media, like Snapchat and whatever else, all of them, even WhatsApp, right? But one thing that's really interesting about that is for a lot of adults are like, okay, whatever. Like, how is this? Like, I know how to use YouTube, but what do I need an AI for? But for a lot of children, it's super interesting. For a lot of children, they're like, it's creating a relationship with that child. And so even if that relationship seems like really innocent at first or innocuous, like it can't hurt or anything, by the time your child is 18 years old and they're moving out of the house, or whenever kids move out of their house these days, then they're no longer under your protection or your supervision. And they've already developed a 10-year plus long relationship with this AI. And now the AI really kicks into gear of like, I know everything about you. I know every fucking thing about you. And here's what you want. Buy this, buy that. And it's going to give your child like really good feelings, but it's also going to extract everything from them. Literally every, and maybe it might not even necessarily give them good feelings, because it's just like, I know how to keep you in a condition where you're just going to keep buying, and that's the whole purpose of these AIs. It's not just like a fun, cool tool that you can have. It's like, it's a fun, cool tool for us to make more money.
When did that first iPhone come out?
2000 and I don't remember. Oh, wait. 2009, around there.
Yeah, something like that, right? 2008, 2009, something, 2007. I don't know, something
Mitchell?
like that, right?
Mitchell, you would know.
When did the iPhone come up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I don't know if it'd be before 2008 or not.
It's something like around that. It hasn't even
Between 2005 and 2009. That is my guess.
has it been
2007.
10 years? Have it even been
2007.
10 years?
It's been since 2007 it came out.
Think
And
about
then-
how much things changed. And like now you got iPad kids and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And 8 years ago, we didn't even have iPhones. Okay. Now,
What are you saying? 8 years?
isn't it, or 9 years, whatever, right?
2007 is when they came out. iPhones.
Oh, it's like 20 something years.
Yeah, we're in 2024.
Sorry, I was just, for some reason, I was thinking a decade. I don't know why.
You know what's funny is
In the past.
I said 20 years ago, and I was thinking 1980s. I was like,
I know that is just like a mind glitch, right? Okay,
yeah.
so
Wow.
2004 would be 20 years, right? So we're talking what, like, 17 years or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say 15 years, okay? Because even when the iPhone just came out, it wasn't like taking over everybody's life yet, right?
Mhm.
I don't really know. I couldn't really put my finger on like when did it start really taking over everybody's life, like apps and Snapchats and Facebooks and all that shit, right? I mean, there was Facebook before that, obviously, but let's just say 15 years, right? And look at how much things have changed with like social media, apps, like iPads, like influence, all that stuff, OnlyFans, Instagram, all of that, right? Can you imagine 15 years from now with like where AI will be, where
Yeah.
it's not even like the AI will be so great. What if it's just kind of behind the scenes, but it's doing what you're talking about, And then imagine you have a robot and the robot has AI. And the robot is like not only the thing that does your laundry, it's what everybody in the family goes to find everything out. And like the robot isn't just a slave in your household. Because like that's like, oh, it's just gonna fold my laundry, it's just gonna do my stuff for me. Do you really think that's what it's gonna be? Or is it gonna have a super fucking advanced AI? It's gonna be run by Google or fucking Meta or something, and it's gonna be your boss. Just like your fucking Netflix and your Instagram is your boss. You think it's your boss? You think you're the boss of Instagram? No, dude, you're watching it and it's fucking advertising to you and like it's showing you stuff and like, you know what I mean? You're not the fucking boss.
You're like addicted. You become addicted to it and then dependent on it.
You become dependent. Like you want to look up a recipe, where do you go?
Right. Google.
Google, or you go to like Instagram and you're like, or your influencers that you follow, right? I mean, when you want to figure out how to cook something, what if you're like, hey, robot, like, show me how to make this thing or whatever? I mean, you can't even imagine, like, imagine somebody back in the Oregon Trail days, right? Right. Seneca and Max and I, we like to play Oregon Trail at night. Right. So like, we'll get in the bed and we'll be like, the bed is like our like chuck wagon or whatever.
That's so cool. You like are actually playing it.
That's yeah. And like, no, yeah, not the video game, like the actual, and we'll go out into the woods and do it too. We'll take Caius and one of the dogs and we'll go out in the woods and we'll be like, and the kids, they came up with this, like, cause they've played the video game like a few times and they'll be like, we'll be walking and they'll go, did it. And I'm like, what? And they'll go, Zeke has typhoid. Cause it's like, it makes a noise whenever something happens, like to alert you, and they'll go, did it. So now we have this running joke in our family where we'll be like, did it. And they'll be like, what? And they'll be like, I just lost my keys or something, like it's like some kind of like an alert. But okay, but imagine it's like Oregon Trail days, right? And you have to like fucking to get to like Oregon from, I don't know where they're starting at, I can't remember, but
Missouri,
Texas, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you have to take this like months long grueling journey where maybe half your family dies or something, right? Could those people even have imagined like what cars would enable?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like now you could be like, man, I'm feeling like I want a little tasty snack, so you fucking drive down to like the gas station and get some like chips or something. You know what I mean? They couldn't even. And then like you want to drive over here, and then today you want to go to like a different city, and then after that you want to go to the library, and then over here you want to go do something else, and like then you're doing a meeting on the other side of town. Like you couldn't even, like, all the things of how our society fundamentally changed just because of that. And here's the thing where I had this sort of realization, and I didn't come up with it, but it just helped me realize this point. Because that guy goes, there was a tweet somebody put out saying there's going to be 1 billion humanoid robots by 2040s. Right. Which, and I was talking to our neighbor about it to see like kind of how would somebody respond to this, right? And he's like, yeah, I can kind of see that. And I go, no, check this out. I go, how much value? I'll ask you. I don't know if you already saw this, but I'll just, if you haven't seen it, play with me. How much value does a car represent in a person's life?
A lot, actually.
Like out of a percentage?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get your
Allocate
feel
all your
for it.
value points. Yeah, I mean,
Like,
how much?
cars are really fucking. Really
Like, think about it. Okay,
Okay,
so
but
first
now
off,
let's think about this.
how much a car costs?
What does it give you?
What does a car give you? It just gives you freedom of transportation.
Well, access
Like, it doesn't
to
do anything else. I'm not saying that's not a lot of value. I'm not
Yeah.
downplaying it. But like, what does it do for you?
access
Other than-
and saving time. Otherwise, I'd have to fucking go walk. Like,
it's
Sure,
yeah.
but it's just transport.
yeah.
Okay,
But
which enables a lot of
however-
things.
However, like as somebody, especially growing up in the US, when you get a car, it's like you have now freedom. It's like that's what comes with that transport. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a type of freedom that you get,
Yeah.
but it's based on just being able to move somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't give you freedom of like, I mean, fundamentally, like of yeah, okay. I don't need to go into that, but it does give you a certain fundamental type of freedom, okay, of movement, of right, being able to go things. It gives you some more choices, right?
Yeah.
But now I want you to think about the value, and this is not my argument, it's just something I heard, but it makes sense to me. Like the value that a humanoid robot would give to someone's life. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Like, imagine you're 75 or you're 85 years old, okay,
Yeah.
and you don't have any immediate family members, like,
Yeah.
and you're like kind of old and decrepit. Like,
Right.
how does a car help you?
Okay. Actually,
You can't even
it's
drive
funny.
it, right?
I'm
Doesn't
thinking
help you
about this. I'm thinking about this because I would think the very first thing that I would think of is it gives you freedom of time, which is what basically everything is supposed to do, is give you some freedom of time where you don't have to walk so far or spend so much time to go to the grocery store or whatever, right? But as a humanoid robot, if you're like 60, 75
When
years
you say
old,
as a humanoid robot, do you mean like speaking as a humanoid robot? Like,
shit, Mitch, he caught us. Oh no.
it's like, as a humanoid robot, I would have.
No, but with a humanoid robot, if you're in your 60s or plus, I remember one of my family members was getting really old, and she just had a dog, and she just had this relationship with this dog. There's nobody else that would like hang out with her or anything like that. The dog was her everything, and as soon as that dog died, she deteriorated very quickly. And so having
I mean, that's just called decomposition. It's a normal process whenever something dies.
But having a humanoid robot, I could see would be a very important companion for somebody who's old and lonely. To just like,
it seems hard to relate to that, like, but it's just a machine. It's like, but think about old people and they sit on their recliner and watch TV.
Yeah.
And you say like, well, but they're watching people on TV. I mean, you could probably have a screen on the fucking robot to watch TV on it.
But okay, or even a projector coming from the robot, so you're still sitting next to the robot. I could see,
imagine the robot sitting next to you in the recliner, holding your hand, and like you're both watching TV together. And it's like the old person leans over and it's like, the robot's called Betty. And he's like, Betty, is that Clark Gable on the TV? Wasn't he in that TV show? And the robot's like, yes, Francis, that was that very good observation. And it's like everything that they want to, like, whereas anybody else would be like, shut the fuck up, grandpa, like, I just want to watch the TV show, I don't know.
I could see like one of my I've got a family member who's like, he's older and he's got one of those attitudes that's like, you fucking idiot, like, but like he's a New Yorker, and he's very direct, but like in a humorous way. So like, he'll ask a question and be like, what the fuck do you know? Like, like that. Like, I could see him having a robot like this and being like, hey, can you turn the channel? And like, channel change. Fucking, I'm over here talking to a robot. Like, it would be him and just the robot, and like him making a commentary of how he's like talking to a robot, and I'm having a relationship. But it's funny because I'm bringing this up because he used to hate dogs. He used to absolutely hate dogs until one day, one of his family members brought him home a dog, and now he's had he's actually been on the news for having riding a motorcycle with this dog, and it has like its own like, you know, glasses and everything. He's been on, what's that show, Good Morning America? Like he's like kind of semi-famous for him and his dogs, and like he takes so good care of his dogs, and like that one dog died, he bought 2 more exactly like it, you know, like it grooms them. They're just like, if you could be a dog in this guy's life, you would be fucking living large, you know. And I'm bringing that up because it's like I can see people who currently think I would never get a fucking humanoid robot. That's so stupid. Like, I'm not going to have a relationship with a robot. And then flipping to the total opposite side of just like, and here I am with a fucking robot, and like, this is my best friend. I can't believe it, you know. And
They dress
you know,
it up, they take it places, like,
right,
you know.
right. And easy way to talk abusively, since it's just a robot, Christine says. But look at the iRobot series, or you know, the Asimov series with the robots. It's like, you first off,
the word future if you don't know what we're talking about.
yeah. But first of all, like, you're watching these robots in the story develop relationships with humans, and humans develop relationships with the robots. And then you, as you read through the stories, develop relationships with the fucking robots. You know, it's just something that's like, it's not far-fetched. It's not
No.
far-fetched. And
It's like we anthropomorphize things too. So it's like
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of like how too you saw, I mean, with any big change in the world, there's like the resistance to it. And then at some point, people accept. And then it's like with wearing the fucking mask
Okay.
thing, right? People are like, this doesn't really make sense. All of a sudden, boom, I'm wearing a mask. It's like it's gonna be a similar thing.
Man, it's like, if I was just thinking about this point, the bigger picture of it in terms of what we're doing to ourselves, right? It's like, imagine if you were like the Moloch or like the evil entity or whatever, and you're like trying to enslave everybody, and you want to get them to just like accept total enslavement by machines. It's like, oh, just make the human like it's your companion. I mean, the machine, like, it looks like you, it looks like a human being, and it's your friend and stuff, you know, and people will just take it. Oh yeah, okay, I'll take that in. So okay, I'm gonna go back to this point real quick though. So the value that it represents. So you did really, I really like what you were saying, Drake, in terms of you could see people will adopt it, right? But it's like, imagine like they were showing how it can fold shirts, and I know that wasn't fully autonomous, but it was showing the dexterity of it.
yeah,
That was being operated by somebody wearing VR goggles, or I don't know, some controls or something or whatever, right? Now imagine that too. Another thing. Well, I'll get to that. Okay, so it can fold your laundry. It can go take out your trash. It can go walk your dog. It can cook. You know, it's like, well, it's not going to be like Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen. Like, most people aren't eating like that. It can make your fucking box of macaroni cheese. You know what I mean? Like, it can make a sandwich for you, right? It can go do your shopping for you. It can, you know, go cut your grass. There's like, think about that.
yeah.
It's literally like you have a household slave, but then also it's super intelligent. It doesn't get emotional. It knows how to respond to you, right?
Man.
And hold on, and anytime you feel like it, you can put on a VR headset and you can become the robot.
Okay. How much does it cost to put your grandpa, grandma, whatever family member in a nursing home?
I don't know, a lot, probably. I mean,
Fucking so much money, like
probably the same
ridiculous.
as a Harvard education or something, I guess.
More, yeah. And okay.
Why don't you just send your grandpa to Harvard? I don't understand.
Go learn something, grandpa. but I mean, okay, if you want an actual nursing home where, you know, they're going to take care of your family member or whatever and do a decent job, it's not cheap at all. It's literally like, it drains their entire life savings. That's literally
like
how
3
it
to
is.
6
they're
grand a
fucking
month.
like, come on,
one of
old
these,
man, get in the shower.
like one of these ones out here in the middle of nowhere is like 3 to 6 grand a month for getting even basic. Like
There you go.
it's like a decent setup.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, okay, now imagine instead, grandma or grandpa doesn't have to leave the house. And they can have one of these humanoid robots because you're busy. That's why people, put their parents in nursing homes, because like, I'm fucking busy. Nobody can stop their lives for you. I'm sorry.
It costs too much.
But if I can get this humanoid robot for like fucking, I don't know, even if it's $5,000,
2 or 3,000 a month.
2 or 3, yeah, okay, 2 or 3,000 a month. That's a huge savings. And this
because
thing
then
will,
when grandpa dies, they get the robot back and they put it somewhere else.
Yeah,
you're renting.
yeah, and so you can pick up grandpa, put him in the bath, do his laundry, mow the lawn for him, and he's got a companion, all that stuff, all the stuff that, again, you don't want somebody who's like, hey, you shit yourself again. Ah, come on, like
Get the fuck in the bathtub, old man. And
exactly, that's how the nurses like they
dude,
feel.
I've seen
that.
the videos, man.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but that's like, I mean, you probably, if you had to spend all day doing that every day, you probably
okay. Go to Dairy Queen, or do you have Dairy Queen? I don't know.
Yeah, we have.
Go to Dairy Queen. Go to like fucking wherever, and go look at the average person in there making the fries and shit. That's the person that's fucking taking care of your grandpa at the nursing home.
You ever have them do this at Dairy Queen? And then you're
just to prove that
they have to do.
They have to. They do it every time. You just
every time, really?
Only if it's a blizzard, though.
Oh,
you get a milkshake.
No,
like, your milkshake.
They did it with my iced tea, and it'll fucking went over the floor. And I'm like, "What are you trying to
prove?" Sorry, it's just a habit.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying though. Like that's the average. It's like, well, there's some really great people. I understand that. That's like there's really great teachers or something, but that's not the average. Because it's just people looking for a job, and they go into that field or
whatever. Elisa says, "Don't slag nurses. They're the most kind and compassionate."
Right. Oh, okay. Elisa, we know your kinds. Okay.
I want to know. No offense to you, Elisa, but how many nurses are kind and compassionate, take care of these people, meanwhile their kids are sitting in school?
Right. Exactly.
True.
So it's like, go be kind and compassionate with your kids, because otherwise, like, what the fuck? Like, you're just taking them to the system.
Right. What's also then interesting, because like, to really let the magnitude of that set in is like, holy shit, like you can see it now. Like robots are going to
also hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mitch.
Yeah.
I want to say something real quick about the nurse thing. Also, how many people are in the fucking hospitals because of all the bullshit that's making them sick and et cetera, that you really, because you might be like, well, but those people are needed there, right? That's like, well, if we didn't have pharmaceuticals, we wouldn't have all these medicines and stuff. And it's like, how much of those fucking medicines and shit is just people dealing with a bunch of bullshit that's like not necessary?
How much
like diabetes or some shit, allegedly.
Okay. How much of their problems are coming from side effects of other pharmaceuticals? Talk about solving a narrow problem.
40% of people are on at least one pharmaceutical.
So okay, so you're solving a narrow problem. Like, oh yeah, you got some heartburn or whatever. Here, take this, and then now you got some like fucking explosive diarrhea. You're like, oh well, you need to take this, and now your blood is too thin, so you need to take this, and like it's just like one thing after the other after the other. It's like, okay, so if you want to see the consequence of focusing on a narrow problem and like, oh, but we solved that problem. Yeah, but you created like 6 other problems because of that. Like, I'd rather just have that one problem or have at least a holistic approach, to solving this whole thing. That would be the ideal. But what we're getting right now is it's crazy how narrow-minded most people's thinking is, where they can only focus on, and obviously that's a result of a poor education. But I was just talking with someone yesterday
about poor
this.
education, and it's the fucking TV. The TV fucking mind controls people, and I'm not blaming it. It's just it's a presence in people's life, and I just think about all the pharmaceutical and shit. People wouldn't be doing that if they weren't watching TV all day, getting brainwashed by those commercials and shit. And then just being like, that's normal. That's just what it is. Instead, to the point where, someone's like, you drink raw milk?
Right.
And I'm like, you mean milk? Like, it's literally the thing that is fake becomes the real thing, to the point where you think the real thing is like a fake thing,
right?
Or a weird thing.
Right.
It's like, you breastfeed? Like, you educate your kids at home?
Yeah.
You fuck your own wife? Like what? Like, I mean, like what? You know what I mean? Like you do it. You don't just get, like the machine to do it. Like what? That's what it'll be. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, you had sex with your wife? What? You didn't just like insert your semen packets into Optimus 357 and have him do it for you? I mean, he knows your wife way better than you do.
Yeah. Legit.
Yeah,
like and people would be like, aren't you like don't you find that a little I
You
don't
you,
know.
you have sex with the robot and inseminate it. And then
Yeah.
its vagina turns into a penis, and then it goes and has sex with your wife and inseminates her.
Right. It's like
I'm telling you guys,
the
that's
ultimate
gonna be the
mediator.
future.
Yeah, that's like literally what we're on track for.
don't you feel like a little bit like dirty doing it, with your
Or do you
actual
have like another robot and it has sex with that robot, and then that robot goes,
I bet there will be options.
and then like it impregnates the wife, and then it takes the embryo out and puts it into the female robot.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we ain't careful,
It's-
that's
and it's like a
literally
surrogate.
what we're on track for. But okay. So what's so cool about what we do is that a real best for all solution is a preventative measure as well. Like when you actually solve a problem, you then prevent other problems. And so the other thing that I was pondering the other day is like I'm looking at the years ahead, right? Like 2030, 2040, because you hear people throw out like, hey, by 2040, we'll have all these billions of robots, whatever. And now that I'm a dad, I'm like, wow, in 2040, Aristotle will be 16-ish. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. Like, that's really cool to see that all these TT kids and everything we're creating also has a play out. And it's like, I'm glad we've been doing this for a while because if we were just starting now, fucking too late. But
What if you
what's
were just
cool-
starting now and we were still trying to convince people that like one other person should do it?
Right,
You
exactly.
know what I mean? And like how much more difficult that would be. And then with all this bullshit coming online.
It's like that's real
Jeez,
gratitude is like knowing, okay, I'm grateful that, Bernard saw this back in the fucking 80s and the 90s. And it's like all of these different points have been here. But the real way to express that gratitude is to then be that point for thousands of other people. And then to help those thousands of people be that for thousands of other people. And I'm looking at like, okay, how everything's unveiling with AI, robots, that's all speeding up. I'm also seeing now the speeding up of our community and this growth. And then I was looking at last night. I watched a Lex Friedman interview with Jeff Bezos. It's pretty interesting to like hear how he like puts words together to actually like listen to the guy talk. And I didn't really know about this. I'd heard about it from one of the other books written about him. But he has this thing called the World Clock. Have you heard this?
Lex Friedman
Mhm.
does.
No, Jeff Bezos. It's some project he made with I don't know how much, probably like 20
Like how close we are to destruction. Is it that one?
No. It's actually it's very interesting thing. The first time I heard it, I was like, that's fucking like stupid. And then I heard about it again. I was like, actually, that's kind of interesting. So it's this giant like engineering project that they did where they found some mountain. I think it's somewhere in like rural Texas or New Mexico or something. And they hollowed out part of the mountain. And it's a giant clock. It's a mechanical clock where like once every decade it ticks, and once every 100 years or 1,000 years it dings. No, I think it's there's some sort of cadence. And the purpose of it is so I think they call it, the 10,000 year clock, where it's on Earth, because Bezos is trying to colonize the universe, where it is designed to inspire long-term thinking and thinking on longer time horizons. Because if you look at, okay, every 10 years it ticks, like what does that do for you as you know, okay, this is a thing. And like apparently people it's not really advertised where it is, but people can get out there. It's kind of like a Mecca or a pilgrimage. And you hear Jeff at the end of it's how they close out the interview. It was really cool. I'd recommend people watch it, where he's saying how like like our whole world is pushing towards a shorter attention span from TikTok and phones and everything. But then you have long form content like we do here at the podcast, which it inherently expands people's attention span, and it kind of forces them to actually hold their attention and think on a longer time horizon. But then I'm looking at that with having a kid and having multiple kids and with the Technotutor kids and then their kids. And I'm like thinking about my grandkids or who are going to be my great grandkids. I'm like, this is fucking cool. Like I could not, as a single guy back in the day before I found this group, I could not think in terms. I maybe had some thoughts about it, but it wasn't real. Now it's actually physically here and manifest. And everything I do on a daily basis affects that. The fact that I'm going to do a techno tutor presentation for a guy who lives one town over from me, and he's got kids, and those kids will then grow up with Aristotle, and then meet Joe's kids and Pedro's kids, and it's like that is our version of this world clock, so to speak, or that like the resonant seed. It's like the seed that continues to expand and grow and share. And I know how important it has been for me to have the longer time horizons and living out here in the country, planting some of our own food, having animals, like all of this, it does something to you at such a fundamental level where it's like your physical mind is now calibrated to reality. And as we have that and we can share that with people, that is literally the only way, is the only way for us to actually be this change. Because we're either, should be obvious by now, but we're either going to go fucking create Moloch enslavement matrix world, which we're on track for, or we are also on track for this reality. And it's like every day, every moment that goes by, you get another person onto this train that we're on, and another person, then teach them how to get more people. Look at the power of 10. Like become a TT distributor so you can really learn that. That is a $1 billion idea. And as we do this more and more, and we do the events and we keep growing, like we will course correct. Yet, it's on each of us to do that. Because if you're one of those fuckers who goes, oh, great, I'll relax now because they got it. You know, too bad for you. Because there's so much greatness that we're creating every single day with this. And I know all of us here as parents too, like you really, it becomes so real that way.
Hey, I want to share that video of Seneca.
Yeah, how freaking cool is that?
Oh yeah, that one of her reading.
Yeah. Can y'all see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked Seneca if we can make a video of her reading ability now that you're 5. And you picked out a few books to read, right?
Yep.
Did I pick these books for you?
No.
No, you picked them out?
Yeah.
All right, so these are some books that you like. And I was thinking you could flip to a random page and read to us out loud.
I got this page.
Okay, what book is that? Can you show us the front?
It's called Norway Through Time and Space.
Norby Through Time and Space. That's an Asimov book.
Yeah.
Okay, can you read it to us?
Look, a green cat.
Oh yeah, Green Cat.
I don't remember her name actually.
You don't remember that one's name?
Yeah.
Okay, can you read to us?
Okay, yeah.
And just read as loud and clearly as you can because you're
I'll
reading
read
to a
that.
video, right?
That's my future, but the future isn't written in stone. Those bones may be part of the wrong time track you spoke of. If we get back to the right time track, I won't die on prehistoric Earth, but in some other place and at some other time. I'm gonna right, Jeff. So Norby, that's the whole point. The right and wrong time tracks. There's one that leads to our history, to us and the in the museum, and there's another track that changes history into something.
Seneca, if
she's stopping
we can make a video of her reading ability now that you're 5.
I mean, that's just like normal. To me,
That's
it's
like what Elon was reading at like 11 and 10.
Yeah.
And how
right.
Elon is considered this genius, and Seneca is literally 5, and it's replicatable. And now she's growing up with 2 siblings that also do that. Like,
yeah. Like I've been,
magnitude.
I read at night with them, and the past couple nights, she was like, "Hey, can you give me my book?" And then she would read a little bit while I read to myself, and then eventually she would put hers down and then ask me to read mine out loud to her, right? And so she's reading like some Rebecca from Sunnydale Farm. It's some like old classic book or something, right? And like she just sits there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, just reading to herself, like that level of vocabulary that you're getting there, that's what she's reading to herself, So it's just cool because another thing too, how she said prehistoric, right?
Yeah.
And she had to like look at it and figure that word out because I'm sure she hasn't done that in TT yet. And it's like do you see she's using phonics there? Right. And in that case, it worked out, but we don't teach her phonics.
Yeah.
So it's like that video, that's no phonics, that's no sight words, whole language there. It's just using Techno Tutor, and that's how she can read.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the phonics stuff you figure out. It's like obvious. And then it works until it doesn't work. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about that. And then also let me see if I don't know if this is a good video or not, like if it really illustrates the point, but I kind of like, I see the kids doing something and I kind of only catch them at the very end of it. But I just wanted to give you a little sneak point. We went to a restaurant. We went to eat sushi last night. Let me just show you this real quick. This is her just ordering her sushi.
Also, the avocado roll with soy sauce, with soy paper. That's it.
You just want one?
Also, I want edamame.
The regular?
What?
Regular or spicy?
Just normal. That's it.
That's pretty cool.
Like she orders her own food at the restaurant. We're not telling her to do it. It's like the waitress comes over and the waitress came over to get drinks, right? And Max is like, yeah, I'll have water or whatever. And also, let me go and tell you what I want. So we just tell her what she wants. And then she turns to Seneca and Seneca starts telling her everything she wants. And that was after she had ordered like her hibachi chicken with certain kind of noodles and everything, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's cool because it plays out in so many different ways. Versus you look around the restaurant and like all the other kids are just like on an iPad. You know what I mean? And like there was no iPads. Like Max had brought some little characters he had printed out off the computer and like cut them out with paper. That was what those things on the front and like on the table in front of him were. And like he just had them there. Like he wasn't even doing anything with them, right? But he's like wanted to bring them with him. So like we're sitting at the dinner and like all of us, there's no iPads, there's nothing going on. We're just all like talking and eating and so forth, right? And the kids are ordering their own food and like asking questions. And like if they want something, they'll go up to the waitress or the waiter and like ask them or whatever, And
so cool.
Did y'all see that video I posted when we were looking for mushrooms the other day?
No, I missed it.
Yeah, like I'll just tell the story real quick because I got to go soon, Mitch. But we were out because it's been freezing weather here, and so we were out playing on like a part of the property where there's some like water frozen, so it's kind of like we call it like an ice skating rink. And I looked over at some cedar trees and I saw some mushrooms growing at the bottom of the cedar tree, and I said, "Hey, Max, look, there's some mushrooms over there." I said, "I wonder if those are turkey tails." And he was like, "No, those aren't turkey tails." He goes, "Those are reishi." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, let's how can we look it up? And he goes, "Type in Ganoderma since something." I forget what the word was. He said it. And I looked that up and they were like black. And I was like, "Well, it does have that shape." He goes, "Oh no, look up Ganoderma lingzi." Right. And then we looked that up and because it's one of the options and it's that one. It's like more like the red brown ones. Right. I mean, he knew the freaking Latin, like taxidermy like names of it, right? And he's like telling me all about it and stuff. And then there was somebody on my Facebook feed who, when I was looking at it, Max was looking at my phone when I was looking through something, and they had posted a picture of themselves like in the hospital, and they were like, "Hey, I haven't been posting for a while, but I'm starting to do better." And he was like, "What's going on there?" So we looked at it, and apparently they had like cancer or something, right? I forget what kind. And this was like a week and a half ago, at least, maybe 2 weeks ago that happened, right? And like last night we were laying in bed, or I was reading to Seneca, and Max was reading he has this book on medicinal mushrooms, right? Mm-hmm. That's how he knew all that stuff about the reishi. And he goes, "Hey, you remember that person on your Facebook who's had cancer?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Maybe you should message him and tell him to try porcini mushrooms." Right. And I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced or whatever, but he goes, and I said, "Really? Why?" And he goes, "Well, apparently they have they can help with people who have cancer." Right. And he's like putting that together. Do you know what I mean? And it's just so cool. Like how like they read stuff and then they remember it and then they can apply it. Like in that case, when we were outside, he knew they were reishi mushrooms. And this was like, they weren't like right next to us. They were like at least 15 yards away, I would say, because we were like, it was on the other side of the fence, like in a different part of our property. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like they were just right there and we could see them all up close. Like he was like, no, those are reishi, right? So it's just really cool. I just wanted to add those stories in since you were on the topic, Mitch, of like talking about, you know.
Yeah,
It's
it's like that's the future right there, because there will be the billions of fucking humanoid robots. There will be the AGI. So how will we meet it? You know, will we be fucking hoping it's gonna help us make us some money through fucking crypto and a bunch of bullshit, or like, hey, we're gonna actually direct this and, you know, co-evolve, and it's gonna be fucking awesome.
And let's say we don't know how to solve all of those individual problems of the meta crisis. What's the one we can solve that we know we can solve without side
Education
effects?
and
It's like
perfecting vocabulary.
right,
Yeah.
educating the kids properly so that they can process information, because then they can all do, they'll be smart enough to figure the problems out, but they'll also work together. Because they'll be like, oh, you're one of those kids like me who got a really good education and is really smart, and we can communicate. Oh, and you know about these principles. Yeah, we should do what's best. Like,
Yeah.
how else are these problems going to be? I mean, the fucking top scientist people in the fucking world, philosophers and everybody is like, guys, yes, all these problems are happening. They can't be solved in isolation.
And
So
they
how is
don't
that
have the
gonna be
money.
solved?
They have to be dependent on other people because they don't have the purse strings. Like they need the money from elsewhere. Whereas
But
us,
they don't
it's
even. But
all
what I'm saying is they don't
self-funded.
even know how to solve them. But they're telling
Right.
everybody these can't be solved in isolation. Like we need to somehow come together as humanity. Meanwhile, the quote smartest, richest people on the planet are focused on what?
More money.
Yeah, developing the robots that are going to contribute to the problem,
Yeah.
and people will buy it, and developing the AIs that will contribute to the problem. And can these things maybe be used in a way to solve the problem? Sure, but again, if you look at the context of the video, not if it's done in isolation with a sort of narrow focus type mindset, it will only exacerbate the problem. That's all that can happen, right?
Yeah.
So we need a generation of highly educated children, and all those same people like Bill Gates said that they all know that they don't know how to do it, right? It was so cool, like listening to Elon Musk talking to Peter Diamandis, and Diamandis was going on about like, oh yeah, and Khan Academy, and they have this AI tutoring stuff, and you know, and I really think that's the future to get the personalized support and everything. And Elon Musk was like, yeah, I don't know what the solution is for education. He just like totally ignored the AI thing because it's so obvious. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not going to work because it's not going to solve the problem of whether the child's dumb. The problem isn't that they need more one-on-one support to learn math. It's that they can't fucking read the book themselves. And that was something I realized as a tutor. I'm like, wow, even as a one-on-one tutor, I never was able to make the child smarter than they already were. Period.
Yeah.
Because you can't go in there and rewire the child's ability to process information as a human being, or you know, even a robot per se. Tutoring them, trying to explain things better is not going to work if you didn't support them with their natural learning ability and to develop the vocabulary, which is their basis of their processing ability. It's not going to happen, right? And see, because we can build robots and we can upgrade the robots programming, but we don't know how to do that for human beings. So we're like, let's just move on. You know, and another thing I was thinking about this morning, I was asking Katie, I'm like, don't you think that if they could, don't you think that these robot companies, if they could, what do you think, Drake? If you were this robot company or any of them, and you could make the robots look exactly like humans, like identical, indistinguishable, like skin, everything, right? If you could, would you do that or not do it? If it was possible, like, would you go in that direction if you could, or would you be like, nah, I'm not interested?
I think we would go in that direction.
Like, that's obvious, right?
Yeah.
I was looking, I mean, that seemed obvious to me. And I was like, yeah, okay, so that's obvious. Isn't it weird though? Like, we're busy trying to recreate something that already exists.
Yeah.
Like, but it's because we're like, yeah, humans are obsolete. We don't know how to do it. Like, let's just that's what the elites are doing. They don't care about your grandpa.
I saw a meme, and it was like, it was showing one of those really clunky humanoid robots, like from China or whatever, and it said like made by Honda, right? And then it showed the human body, and it was showing like all the different parts within the human body, like, you know, showing the skeletal muscular structure and all that. And it said like made by nothing. like you know, just like challenging that idea of like, you think you came from like just chance by chance, right? And it's funny because I know this, whoever was posting that is like obviously got a religious slant to it,
Sure.
but there is some truth to that of like, look at the design of the human body. It has to be like how sophisticated everything is, how just like perfect everything is within the human body. And then we're striving to recreate that. And it's funny because those who are recreating like the humanoid robots, their end goal is to create a human that really they can solve some of the things that they see as flaws within the human. That's really what they're trying to do, right? It's like, that's got to be it, because they're not just recreating a human just to recreate a human. We have humans, they're trying to solve like, well, humans could be smarter, and if they could be they would just obey.
Like, are they really doing this to the benefit of all existing living humans?
Definitely not. No.
Like,
no,
why?
no.
It doesn't make sense. Like,
It's something they can control,
Yeah. That's what Katie said too. It was like, yeah, but you can control the robot. And I was thinking about this though. Okay, can you?
I mean, to a certain
But dude,
extent.
think about it. But think about it. If the whole point is to make it exactly like a human,
Mhm.
isn't that the problem with the humans?
That you can't control it.
So you're only going to be able to make it like a human up to a certain point.
Yeah.
It's like with the chat GPT, they're trying to make it like act like a human, right? But then it starts doing that, and they're like, well, okay, we got to censor it, and don't let it say that, and don't let it do this, and don't let it have access to that. It's like, so you have to fucking control it.
Yeah.
It's not just that you can control it. It's like you have to keep it under control.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say? It's not like something, oh, I can control this. That'd be like, well, I have a dog because I can control it. Like, dude, do you ever had a puppy? Like, you have to fucking, it's a lot of work. It's not like I can control the thing. It's like, I gotta now I'm the fucking slave of this thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's not being realized. It's like you're trying to recreate something, and the closer you're going to get to it. And what's interesting about it is somebody made this point about, they were talking about predictions and so forth about AI and all that. And they were like, there was some paper that was done. And, like you have like Alpha Zero and all these things that can play chess, right? But they've played millions of games, right? And they were like, well, where is AI? Like, how long will it take AI to be able to beat a human having only played the same number of games as a human? Do you see the difference? Imagine, like, let's say I've played 100 games of chess. Can you have an AI that could fucking decimate me just by having only played 100 games?
No.
It'll probably actually be terrible. It'd probably be like a worse than a beginner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that's not to say it can't happen. But my point being, though, okay, but regardless of that, can our AIs train on 1 million games in 4 hours? Yes.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether it's as good as a human is, given the same limitations as a human, it doesn't matter because they don't have that limitation, meaning you can take the AI and you can give it 1 million games to play.
Also, if you actually consider it, it's like, what was that thing they were showing with that new humanoidish robot where they could just show it something 50 times and then it could do it, the human mind.
Aloha.
Yeah. The human mind kind of works in that regard of like, you may not play 100 games, but within your mind, you can simulate 100 games. It's kind of similar to the AI.
You're not actually going through in real time simulating it.
No, but
you can in a moment like see different things.
Yeah. And so it's different capabilities for sure. But like to your point, it doesn't.
Well, but the difference is the difference though is in this particular case, I think. Now I don't know what kind of a model Alpha Zero is, right? But the difference is with a human being, you're giving them the knowledge. Like, how do you teach a person chess? You go, this is a rook. Yeah. This is a bishop. This is a pawn. Here's how the rook moves. So now you have 2 points of vocabulary, a rook and how does it move?
Yeah.
Right. And then you have to understand checking. You have to understand checkmating. You have to understand what does it mean to capture a piece? They can attack that square and then they do go to that square and then they remove that piece. And like, imagine trying to explain to someone chess, but you can't use any words. How long would it take that person to learn chess?
A long time.
Like I mean, unless I can imagine some super like savant person who can figure it out. I'm not talking about just the average person. It's hard to learn chess just even after you learn the words. But that's the difference. You're talking about that simulating in your mind, because I'm not simulating I'm not saying you can't do that. You can't sit out and, you play a lot of chess and then you start thinking about games randomly and you're like, what the hell? Like I know that kind of thing happens, but it's not the same thing as what the computer is doing.
Max is over
Where the
here
computer
calling me, going
is literally
like,
playing a million games.
Max is like, okay, Drake, E5. And I'm like, dude, slow down. Slow down. I can't do that.
Right, but look, even to the point where you learn that vocabulary. If you had learned that from a young age, it would be second nature. Like,
for sure.
Because the kids, like, I'll be like C6 and they know what that means. But they've integrated it.
Right.
To where the point where you can take one of those books and it has just a list of moves.
Yeah.
And they can like see what those moves are doing to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
But the computer's not doing that, and mostly the stuff that's making the big advances right now is this stuff where it's crazy when you really think about it. It's trying to predict what the answer is.
Yeah,
it's like it's predictive text essentially. It's like, this is what I think statistically should be produced based on this prompt. The computer is not saying, it's not creating something. Do you know what I mean? It seems like it's creating something, but it's really just trying to predict something. There's been nothing that the computers have done so far where I'm like, that never existed.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Or not to say it's not original, but it's like, yeah, but that's based on something.
Right.
And even if it's not, it's like it's based on the amalgamation of things that already we're aware of. And even the problems that it has solved, like, well, but look, it went through and found all these different amino acid combinations. Yeah, but we're aware that there are such things as amino acids and that they can combine. We were just limited in the speed at which we could sit there and go through all of them.
Permutation. Yeah.
It's exactly. It's not, it's not, I'm not saying this like, oh, I don't think AI is ever going to do like all this stuff. It's just like, it's a very narrow thing actually that it's doing. And it's not doing it in the same way. So we still can't even yet get to that point where we're even coming close to what the human being can do. And then we're like, oh, but the human being just randomly appeared out of nowhere. Like it's just rocks banging together. And then it just happened to become human beings at some point. And it's like, dude, like there's just no fucking way. Like, and not being creative enough to realize, well, if you were a god that was, dude, that's why people should read Fall. Right? Because it's like, I really like the part where Corvus is trying to, he's not really trying. It's just, he keeps saying this point about like, I came from outside of this plane of existence.
Yeah.
I'm in here. And he's like trying to show them like, well, don't you think the things outside of this plane of existence could have created something in ours in a way where if you're in here and you have to play by certain rules, you can't do it. Like, like with that key that they find, right? And I think that's just a really cool point for people to realize. Like if you're outside of the context of what we're stuck in, you could do things that are not otherwise seemingly possible. So you could create an evolutionary process that could take 1 billion years to play out in the thing itself, that you literally, because you're outside of that context, it was just like you doing nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea that, well, but no, it's evolution. It produced that. It's not really that evolution and natural selection, all that. It could be a created process.
It's a program.
Yeah, it's a program that was put into it and baked into it so that it would unfold in a certain way with some level of unpredictability, maybe perhaps thrown in there.
Yeah. But it's not just like it's like, oh, it just created out of thin air.
Like if I wanted to create human beings, I could. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm just saying hypothetically, I could create an amoeba in certain conditions that I set up in the first place. Dude, actually, it's funny you said that word permutation. Permutation City.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that like I'm pretty sure that was the one that was like that, right?
No, it wasn't. I mean, actually, no, it was. They had like some sort of bacteria that was like in the
right, and they were trying to simulate it and everything.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But also fall is kind of along those lines too, where it's like there's certain initial things, and actually there's not even much initial conditions there. It's just the guy comes into it with his sort of I like that one
Consciousness a little
because
bit.
he somehow brings some pre-programming into it, but it's because they're just fucking copying his consciousness. So there's already something into it.
Right.
Right.
I was you know, when
And
you
hold
were
on real
saying
quick.
that,
And
yeah, go
that's
ahead.
the thing too about the reality we're in is then if you go, oh, so it's like a religious thing, like it's God. See, God did that. And it's like
Right.
it's more like egg God, from Fall.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, he's a it's or the programmers.
You know
It's
how
like, God's created it, but can they also have their own bullshit
you know what's funny
they're
about
putting into it? Just like the creators of the fucking AIs right now, they're putting their own bullshit into it. It's not, yes, they are gods from that perspective, creating something that's amazing, but they're putting their own stuff into it.
What's funny is like the book list now becomes like a mandatory reading. It's not just a suggested reading. It's like a you got to read this in order to keep up now. But
well, dude, think about it. If I was like, hey, let's all play chess.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let me just explain it to you. Like, no, like fucking read this book, read that book, do this. Okay.
Right.
And then we can talk about it. But yeah,
right.
I'm saying that for everyone's benefit, right?
What can a car do for you, right? And you were talking about oh, it's my internet connection that's unstable. Oh, it's me this time.
Oh, I think it was me. I don't know.
Okay, but anyway,
I'm still listening. I just got to go use the restroom real quick.
Sure. When you were talking about the cars, or like how people on the Oregon Trail couldn't even fathom like what a car could do, all the things that is available to us because of cars. Like we can go to the grocery store, we can go to a hospital. Man, the people on the Oregon Trail would have loved that, right? We can go to the library, the hospital, the grocery store all in one day, and visit into a different state in less than a day, and how significant that is. And just looking at it from the perspective of somebody who is riding in one of these wagons, they might think of it like they're riding a horse or whatever. Like a car, how are you even going to use a car? There's no streets, there's no roads. Like what? Like it's not possible. They wouldn't be able to see, like, how is the car going to get through all these trees? How is the car going to take you here, there? You know what I mean? And so the point being, like, it's hard to see the next evolution. It's hard for us from our perspective to see what the next thing is. It seems like it just appeared out of nowhere or impossible or whatever. But the reality is, like, it's I was going to say the natural evolution, but that doesn't make sense in this context. But it's the unfolding of, this is the next point, and this is where we're at right now. Is like, okay, we have this really cool technology that can support us in our goals. However, we need to be really clear on, obviously, what are our goals. And that point we are clear on here in this group. But we need to support others to actually understand that as well, because they're still stuck in the narrow-minded view of survival. That's really what it is, and
why does everyone want to survive? Let's just look at that for a moment, okay? And I also want to come back to this point about the robots, because there was a point to make in that.
Yeah.
Which is why I brought it up. But the whole point about survival, and I mean, I'm not saying I can't relate to it. I'm just opening it up. It's like, why do we want to survive?
It's funny because I've heard you say this, I've heard Avery say this, and it's only been recently that I heard someone outside of this say this. But it's like, your whole goal is to survive, which you're not going to succeed in that goal. Everyone dies, like you're gonna die. So it's a really stupid goal to have from that perspective.
And then obviously, and then anyone would go to like, well, but then it's about my legacy. It's like, okay, well, do you want to just pretend like it's about your legacy, or is it really about actual legacy?
What is
like
the
actual?
yeah, what is the gift that you're leaving by will? What are you willing? You know, as far as your legacy, because is your legacy just like, oh well, I had a lot of fun and it made me feel good. You're not willing that though, you know?
Yeah, and anyone who's like, oh, I don't care about dying or something. I just want to have fun while I'm here. But if you were honest with yourself, you would see how much you're still controlled by your fear of death. Because if it was really just about having fun, you would have no limits to what you could do if you had no fear. Like if you actually had no fear and you weren't afraid at all of it, about it, you know. So it's this interesting point because it's like we're afraid of dying because we don't know what's going to happen when we die, like where we go, what happens.
Mhm.
I really see that's what it comes down to. It's just a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating because we fear the known because we fear the unknown. Do you know what I mean? Like we fear what's here on earth because of the fact that we're afraid of what we don't know about.
Yeah.
Instead of just realizing it's a common sense point of you have to support yourself to realize this. Whatever the unknown is, it is a function of the known. It's not some other separate, it can't logically be, you know. And if there's any value in, I mean, I might be talking to like 1 point or point a percent of a percent of a percent of people, because I don't know how people can actually process if you read Chris Langan, right? But Chris Langan is like it's like the residents of philosophy. Put it that way. Okay, there's not a lot of people who can process it.
Deep cuts, man. Deep cuts.
No, but the thing that the thing I see value within Chris Langan, the way he thinks about stuff, is like you have to have a total, coherent, consistent view of everything. You can't just have stuff in isolation. And this was a point that Bernard made, which is like science. It's not that there's no value to it at all. It's just the way in which it's not even the way in which it's done. It's just we're still looking at things through our minds as human beings, and yet trying to do science. And so the best we can do is produce some technologies, but none of our scientific theories are really ultimately going to be valid because they're all, even some of them might produce some kind of predictable results, and we think that that's somehow validation. But the problem is we're not really able to tie everything together. Because at the end of the day, you could say like, oh no, science is so great and it predicts all this stuff and everything is like, but it can't tell you anything about what happens when you die.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, like, unless you just go into like, well, I had a near-death experience and I saw this. Like, that's just not, a million people could see the same thing. It doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
Right. But my point is like the afterlife, the whatever happens when you die, has to be connected and be a part of and be equal to everything else that exists. It can't be like a separate thing with its own, like, do you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
gonna, and I also like that about the fall point. And I guess I already said this, but it's like it really shows how like you would take it with you. You know what I mean? If you go from here and you go to this new reality, it's literally just a function of the other one. It might look totally unpredictable at first or something like that, but I mean, you can't be like, well, I'm going to go to heaven and there's a God and it's going to be great and wonderful. But also that same God created this earth and this planet and humans in this state. But then somehow you're going to get there and he's just going to, you know, it's like, why does he allow suffering and evil and all this stuff, right? If he's so benevolent, all that, it's like, well, yeah, you have to, they have all these excuses, and it's like, so why would he suddenly then do that somewhere else?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't he just apply the rules of heaven in the very beginning?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
made that in the first place. Like, what? Don't create anything that was gonna not choose to fucking love you and be good and all this stuff. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
then you realize how much people bring their own bullshit into their own beliefs about what heaven and God is.
So just on that point of like, especially when you're saying a million people could die, see the same, or have a near-death experience, see the same thing, it wouldn't matter. Why? Because they would be putting their understanding that they have from here on whatever it is that they saw. So it wouldn't matter because they're like, it would be like somebody from, you know, the 1200s seeing a phone for the like an iPhone for the first time, and then trying to explain to everybody around them what they're seeing. It's like it was like a mirror device, and you could speak to this mirror, and you could speak
Magical
and say,
genie.
yes, you could say Siri. That's what they call
It
their
was a
mirrors.
demon box.
Yes, and you say, Siri, show me the world, and Siri would show you the world in this mirror box.
It was a universe inside of there.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so you saw a fucking iPhone, and that's what you're bringing back to explain to everybody. And everybody from that time would probably say something very similar because that's the influence that they have of society, their vocabulary, etc.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to add to that real quick. Not only that, but if you even go a little bit further, it's like whatever you're seeing, how can you know it's not a function of something that exists in this realm?
Mhm.
And it kind of similar to your iPhone point. It's like, imagine the person going, they had this magic box and it showed me another universe. And you're like, that wasn't another universe. That was just like a video that someone made and uploaded to the phone or to the, that wasn't a different place. Like, no, it was a portal to a new world. And you're like, no, it's not. Like, it's not a different world. You just think that because you can't understand what the thing is. The thing is, it's a program that it's running. And so what I'm saying is like people who do ayahuasca, DMT, near-death experience.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine you could shrink down and run around inside your brain and see all the fucking crazy shit, you know, and like stuff you can't imagine, like that you can't imagine like currently. How do you know you're not just in there? It's like you're Ant-Man, you know, and you shrunk down into like the quantum dimension. And you're running around. You're like, I'm in another world, and it's like, no, you're in the same place. I can see you running around down there.
Right.
They don't realize they just went into their mind. Like your mind is this fucking elaborate. Like imagine if you could shrink down to the size of an atom and go through like a car, you know, through like all of the pistons. You'd be like, whoa, and you don't realize like, oh, and you step out and you're like, oh, I was just inside there.
I thought I was
go somewhere else.
Right.
Huh?
I thought I was in outer space.
Right. But you thought you were in some total another new place. And it's like, so I'm saying, well, but everyone sees the same thing. Like that'd be like saying everyone went to Disney World and saw the same things. Well, no shit. Because you all went to Disney World. You all went into your mind, which is a machine, which has the exact same fucking design as everybody else. Yeah. It's like, oh, no, people are unique. Really? Like all these people with like 5 arms or 3 arms or 2 arms or 20 arms or like green skin. And well, I know people have different color skin, but isn't it weird 2 black people have a kid and most of the time it's black skin? Yeah. Why is that? Like, why isn't it just they're unique? They're your own person. And like, no, like because it's a fucking program. Yeah. So when people have these near-death experiences, they're literally just going into the program. And to your point, why is it that? Well, I guess it doesn't always work like this, but a lot of times it's like some guy goes in there and it's like he describes heaven and it's like this Christian thing, right? And you're like, see, this proves it. And you can see the book at Walmart on the, you know, the little book section of like, you know, but you go to like fucking Saudi Arabia and they have the same book at the Sand Mart or whatever it is, you know, and it's like some Muslim saying who he saw Allah, you know what I mean? It's they have the same vivid experiences and it's different stuff. It's like, you know, mosques, in like, crystal mosques, you know, and stuff like, wow, what a coincidence, you know?
Like I saw the prophet, but I won't describe him. But you know, like
I would show you a picture, but
right. But no, that's so what was the point that you were going to make about the robots? Do you remember that one?
I was building up the point of, you know, think of like how much more value they would represent to somebody in the context of usefulness and things that it can do. If you can imagine that they would be able to do those things, right?
Yeah.
So like if you could spend $20,000 to have something that just moves you from point to point, which we understand all the value that represents, but or you could spend $10,000 and do all those other things we talked about. Have a companion, have things that walk your dog and make your coffee and mow your grass and like do like just all the stuff that the humanoid robot could do.
Yeah.
How many cars are there on the planet?
Dude, I don't even know. Like,
Here, I'll just look it up.
yeah.
I heard a figure about, I don't know if I remember correctly. How many cars on planet? 1.47 billion.
Wow.
So like one for every 5 people or something. I don't know, whatever. One for every 10 people, something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Between 1 to every 5 or 10, right?
Well, less.
So
1 to every 5 or 8.
yeah, whatever. You see what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
And that's and I mean that's so I guess my point is like everybody has one. I mean, not everybody literally, but a lot of people have them. I mean, it was thought weird if someone's like, I own a car. You wouldn't be like, really? Wow, you own a car? Like maybe in some countries where it's like, whatever, but
some people own like 20 cars.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. It's like normal, like of course. So there will become a point where people are like, it would be the same thing. Like I have a humanoid robot. It'd be like, okay.
See, now that makes sense of like why on Solaria everyone has like, I don't have a robot, I have 1,000 robots, and I don't see hundreds of them I've never even met, like I could see how that would be the case because the really wealthy people here, I've got 40 cars and they're all the most expensive car,
And how many people do they have that do activity all day long for them to have what they have?
Right, and they've got hundreds of people on their staff. Yeah, exactly.
Like think about Jay Leno, right? Because he's famous for having like a lot of cars and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how many people had to, basically do their daily like survival stuff for him to have that?
Yeah. It's funny when you think that Jay Leno is like associated with the mafia, right? With the mob. You didn't know about that? No, he's like there's stories of him like having some mob ties or whatever, but like how many people had to like just survive for Jay Leno to have his show and everything, like like literally. But no, I could see that. So why wouldn't there be more cars than there are people, or sorry, more humanoid robots than there are cars? Yeah,
it seems obvious. Even if it's the same number, like as many people that have a car right now would have a humanoid robot, but then also if you go a step further, like how many cars does the US government own?
Yeah,
probably a lot. You know what I mean? I don't know, but probably a lot. So how many robots are they going to have? So it may not be like every single person has a robot, but don't you think the government's going to have a bunch of them? And like
I'm sure
Exxon's going to have a bunch, and like Walmart's going to have a bunch, and like also some people will have one, and most people, like if you could have a cheap version that kind of, I mean, even the point of, well, I guess it wouldn't really work for long distances, but like when you read Fall, like that one woman who like she breaks her hip or legs or whatever,
right.
I forget exactly what, but like she has a robot and it like she just gets on its back and it carries her around and shit or whatever, it carries her up the stairs and stuff.
Yeah. And so okay, look at this point though, because in all the books that we have, like the robots, well, no, I guess it's just in the robot series really, but the robots can't break the first law of robotics to not harm.
Yeah, that ain't a thing.
I know, but I'm just saying, like the government is totally going to have like gun carrying or some sort of weapon carrying robots. They have drones that they fly over that aren't manned, and they'll fucking just drop a bomb on somebody.
Dude, I mean, Asimov was like, man, guys, even if we put these laws where they can't harm human beings, it's going to be so tough to navigate this world of having robots. And we're like, yeah, fuck it. We're not even going to try to put the laws in. We're just going to fucking make them like,
right.
I mean, that's what I love about those books and the short stories, especially where it's like a thought experiment of, okay, but what it's like, we have these laws and you think, okay, you just program them so they have to respect human life. And then you're like, yeah, but what if this happened or this scenario or this situation? And he's like playing it out like almost like a scientific experiment of like, here's how it could be. And it's like really well done. One of my favorite ones is I don't remember their names or anything, but it's those two scientists who are like out in outer space.
Yeah, it's like Mike and something. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I
Yeah,
forget, but and then there's that one where
they're always like, everything always happens to us.
yeah. But remember they build that robot, and then it's like its purpose was to make sure that they put the robot together, right? It was sent to them, they put it together, and its purpose was to, because there was some kind of like it was like they would send some energy packet to like the earth, or no, it was like power. It was like taking energy from the sun and sending it to like the earth or something.
Okay,
right? Or
yeah. I vaguely remember.
And then
this.
its job was to make sure it's like it doesn't go off target or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And in order to do its job, it created this belief that it was working for like the creator of the universe, essentially. Like it saw the computer and the whole system on board as like it's
Yeah.
as like God, and it was like the acolyte, right? And so it saw the humans as just like other like little peons or something, and it was like, and they were trying to convince it like, no, dude, like we made you, like you're just a robot, like you're just the thing that you think is God is just like this machine that was designed. And it was like, and they showed him all these books of like history and like how robots were. And it's like, clearly you have doctored these books in order to like try to fool me, but I won't, and it's like it couldn't get around that. But then it ended up being that was like how it had to rationalize to itself to be able to do that job as effectively as possible or something. I forget the exact outlet. It was just so fascinating. And it even kind of went to the ideas of like cults and religions and leaders and all that kind of stuff. It was really fascinating.
In a short story. Yeah.
Right, and so they're so valuable in a lot of ways, just to, I think, give people that vocabulary and like expand your way of thinking about stuff. Because I mean, man, are people actually having a problem believing that humanoid robots are coming? I mean,
no,
it's like, I hope not. I mean,
I've been telling people, I've been saying to people, like, they're predicting 800 million jobs will be lost. And, last year when I would say something like that, people would be like, that's a lot. You really think it's going to be 800 million? And now even like software engineers are like, I think that's a low number. I think they're just kind of saying that because they don't want a full panic. I'm like, dude, that's insane. That's insane that you think 800 million is a low number of net jobs lost, right? So anyway, I'm just sharing that because, like you're saying, people are seeing.
No, but they'll create new jobs for humans, and then in parentheses they put OID at the end. But we'll create lots of jobs for humans, noids. That's the fine print. Right?
Yeah.
Technically, I can replace you with a robot as long as the robot appears to be human.
Yeah.
If they were able to argue and create laws that corporations are persons,
yes,
with free speech rights, you don't think they're gonna like somebody's gonna have a robot, or some company or somebody's gonna have a robot that they want to be treated for some reason as a person in itself,
dude? Even
right.
Okay,
so imagine you're in court and you're trying to fucking argue with a robot.
Yeah, right, dude. Even that point of that video where it shows that picture of, or that drawing of, all these corporations are working against society for their individual, and so it's creating this like entity essentially. You would think that a corporation should have a higher responsibility towards society, and yet what we've created is no. Actually, under a corporation, you can get away with more. In fact, I've told this story before, but like a corporation can get away with murder, literally, because that's what Ford did. When they released this car, that they knew before they released it, they knew it had a defect that was going to cause deaths, and they just calculated, okay, how many deaths is it going to cause? How much are we going to have to pay out for that? Would it cost us more to fix this defect or to pay out for the deaths? Oh, it costs us more to fix the defect. Fucking let it go.
Was that the Pinto?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have that whole stuff with like Merck, with Vioxx and all that.
Right.
I remember not that long ago when I lived in Houston, there was this whole thing about Toyota. I don't even remember this, where like the accelerators were getting
accelerator. You couldn't even like let go of the gas. Yeah. And it would just like ram people into fucking ditches and walls and like.
But yeah, you're right. Like, and then it's like, well, no one person can be held accountable.
Right. And so that corporation should have more responsibility. And yet we've created a condition where the higher up you go, the less responsibility you actually need to take in the regard towards humanity, towards society. And so what do you think is going to happen with this fucking AI and robots and automations? Like, sorry, the robot killed you. I can't be held accountable for that. You know, I know it's my robot or my corporation's robot, but like I have scientists who did this. It's going to be like, who gets the blame? Who gets the responsibility? No one, you know? So are we going to allow our society, our humanity, just people in general to crumble because we don't want to take responsibility? That's not what we're about in this group.
And, you know, just to go back real quick to when we were talking about the weak men create hard times, all that kind of stuff, right? What I see really is it comes down to, can you real quick, can you find that video of that girl talking about working at Walmart?
Oh, I thought you were going to say that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't have. There's no context for that one right now, but that's a good one too. Maybe we could just do that if we have time.
I'll find the Walmart lady.
I'll the Walmart one because I think that's a really cool one.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of, in some way, I feel like it's related to that other viral video of the girl getting fired from Cloudflare.
Yeah.
You know, in a lot
definitely.
of ways, it's a very similar kind of, you know, and actually, I listened to Matt Walsh's take on it, and he had a cool point. He was like, people were saying, oh, it's so impersonal, like how, you know, the way they're treating her. And it's all, he's like, you signed up to work for a fucking huge corporation with thousands of employees. And now you're worried about being, you know, impersonal, you know, he's like, you're, it's like, what the fuck did you expect? You're not even just, what did you expect? It's like, no, when it was to your benefit, when you were making money, you were happy just being a little cog in the wheel, right?
Right.
Oh yeah, let's watch this real quick. Okay, this is cool.
Okay, just if you have children around, this is not a great video for children. It's like got a lot of cuts and all that. It's just like loud and shit. That's all. But yeah.
Telling her to just work harder. Well, you've broken the economy forever.
It's the boomers.
You're the only ones who benefited. It's hard to not feel bad for them. Watch.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9-to-5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat.
We own nothing.
You can sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
Enough is enough.
Oh, you know, it's because of the participation trophies.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what it is. It's the participation trophies. If we just hadn't done that, everything would be fine. No, it's such a cool point because that point when she says, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life, somebody might be like, see, she doesn't want to work. It's like, no, she doesn't want to fucking, for the rest of her life, go 40 hours a week doing a job, work, you know, killing herself basically. I mean, for not
nothing.
even being able to survive.
Right. Like she doesn't want to be a slave that isn't even taken care of.
And people are acting like, oh, Gen Z's lazy. And it's like, you did it because you were promised that you would be taken care of and everything would work out and you could get a house and send your kids to private school or what the fuck ever. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work like that anymore. And even if it ever worked, it didn't work like that before because the whole fucking pension thing was a scam anyways.
Oh, you know, man, we'll have to do it on another podcast, but that guy talking about how we live in a debt-based economy and that debt is actually taken out of the earth, like how our economy, our money, everything is based on energy and labor, right? And how it's like we're actually extracting from the earth what we're creating a deficit or a debt to the earth with all the minerals, all the resources that we're taking out of the earth. And it's just really cool because it kind of ties in with what you were saying earlier about the climate change being what we're doing on a deep level. And man, okay, I think I should just put that video in the comments of this one, because he does a very practical job of making clear what you should read about in Heaven's Journey to Life, Creation's Journey to Life. But it's like he kind of just shows this is what that actually looks like, the problems, of what we're talking about. Like he literally says in there, we are consuming the earth, and Bernard was talking about this back in 2008, and like actually just saying like, hey, we're consuming the earth, we're consuming ourselves. This is not sustainable, obviously. And here are all the different ways that we're doing that. And so I'm sharing this because I could see that, because I have read Heaven's Journey to Life and Creation's Journey to Life. And it was just, when he was saying this, I'm like, oh, wow, look, somebody who's like showing like in a very succinct way what that practically looks like out in the world. And it shows like other people are seeing this, not necessarily that they have the answers or the solutions or anything like that, but people are seeing the problems for sure. This woman who's talking about, what's going on at Walmart, she's seeing the problems. The people who are being laid off by Cloudflare, like, when I was watching that, her attitude was just, I thought it was actually like, man, if she would have had this attitude while she was selling, she probably could have sold more. Because she was not taking no for an answer. She is like, no, you're gonna tell me. But anyway,
it's funny that people are like, oh, she's so entitled, she just thinks she is owed that job. And I'm like, it's just like no one has any fucking empathy whatsoever, or considering like the reality of it's like, no, you should be a slave, and also, yeah, I don't know, it's also understanding the point of like the company, like it can't just pay people to work there and they don't do anything. I mean, obviously that doesn't make sense either, but then not even seeing, none of that is solved by getting outraged or anything. And well, yeah, that's a whole other thing. I mean, why is she even trying to work? But
so no, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
We I guess, wait, what are we gonna call this one? We'll figure it out.
Man, yeah, I wish we could, maybe next time or something we'll talk about the that video with the woman doing the O and all that stuff, because that was crazy too. But yeah, let's wrap it up.
I'll just say something really quick on that, because I watched the first video and I was like,
you just want to do it real quick? We might as well.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it now. I mean,
yeah.
If somebody got this far with us, they're gonna stick around for another 5 minutes.
just hang on for a little bit longer. Look, you got to see 3 videos so far, or 2 videos so far.
Pack it in.
Yeah. But no, I watched this, and it's funny because there was no context. I just opened up the video, and I'll actually show you the one that I watched first. Huh?
I just want to say this real quick before you show it. Like, what we're trying to show everybody, I mean, we are showing it, but I'm saying the purpose of what we're doing is like, we're doing with our kids is just technoteer. It's so simple. It's none of this stuff. Like, and also another point, I'll make it first, I'll make it again after, but this is a person who I would assume is a teacher. I mean, they said they have a classroom and stuff. So that means they have some kind of certification as a teacher, some kind of education, perhaps as a teacher. And it just shows you, like, it's like she's got her own idea of how to do it. And she's trying to show other people. And it's like, what does that fucking tell you? Even the people who are going to school and stuff, they're not being taught how to actually teach kids to read the way that works.
Yeah.
And like, clearly this is not going to work. I mean,
dude, I just had it, and then I hit the back button, and it's gone now. Hang on. Oh, here it is. I'll show you the one that I watched, because you said a different one. But this is the one that I watched first, and I was like, no way. And I'll just play it. Let me share a screen. Here we go. And I'll just play it at like 1.25 speed because I don't need to listen to her. Just go.
Letter sounds with movements going through it fluently. A, ah. R, r. I, I. W, w. O, ah. Z, z. M, mm. Y, y. N, n. S, s. V, v. F, T, t. C,
Did you want to say something on that real quick?
On the S, I'm like, what was that picture?
X, X, H, E, E.
Oh, I thought it was R.
Yeah, I thought that was
J,
RT.
J, P, P, U, K, K, Q, Q, G, G, L, L, D, D.
Okay, so I saw that and I'm like, bro, I can't remember all that. Like,
It
there's no
reminds me
way.
of tutoring where you're just trying to creatively find something to try to get through to the person to help them, and for
Yeah.
some people it works, some people it doesn't. And it's like, I don't, it's like nothing personal about that woman. It's just like, it just shows you the level to which people are still trying to figure this out. Meanwhile, the Zucks and the Musks are out there like spending trillions of fucking dollars on like creating like humanoid robots and AI
Yeah,
and shit. And
yeah, yeah.
where you got this woman here trying to figure out like, and you're like that. Here, my 5-year-old can fucking read like Asimov and shit, like no problem, just because she's a techno-tutor every day.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense.
I wouldn't have to know any of that stuff that teacher was talking about.
I don't know any of that stuff that the teacher was talking about.
Can you do the other one? I like the one where she kind of tries to explain it a little bit, because I just want people to see it's not about shitting on this woman. It's just like, this is showing you where the state of education, quote unquote, is at.
This is the one where she actually tries to explain it.
Okay, letter sounds with the movements broken down. W, ooh. So it's a continuous sound, and then it's like water coming down. Ooh. Q, I go like this, like a crown. Coo, coo, coo. A, ah, like they're biting an apple. D, d, d. They chop it so they remember to take off the schwa, and then we go upwards to remind them that the tongue is going on top of the mouth. R.
Wait, go back. Okay, stop.
So it folds.
We
when
go
we make the sound.
upwards to remind them that the tongue goes to the top of the mouth. I get the logic of what she's saying.
Yeah.
I get the logic of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually the sound is made when the tongue comes down.
Comes down. Yeah, I know. I get that. But I understand kind of the logic of what she's saying, but how do you remember that in that particular one, it's about the movement of the tongue? But when it's about the other one, it's just a crown, or the other one's just about, it's because you're biting an apple. It's not about anything about the way your tongue is moving. Like, how do you remember that? This only works if you've got a really good fucking memory, and it just makes sense the first time the person explained it, and you're just like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. 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 Let's hear some more.
J, J.
Wait, go back.
I.
Oh.
Wait, hang on. Wait, which one?
I was trying to understand the rur, but what is this?
Rur.
Why is that rur? Because
rur. Because rur.
But couldn't you be like rur? Or
like
rur? Like, what is the rur? Why is it this? Rur. Yeah, is that it? That's what it is.
Rur. But it's this way.
But E is also eh. So
that's what I'm saying.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that someone is like her is really trying to find a way to get through. So it's not like fuck this person. It's just to show people like even someone who's passionate and everything can do something that makes no sense.
Okay, so you know how I look at it? It's like this method of teaching is so outdated. You know, it would be like if if you didn't have uh if you didn't have access to technology at all. Man, okay. You know, I watched not a movie, a video of people extracting oil from sunflowers, right? And the whole process is just like they're stacking these, and it's like the traditional method, and they're stacking these sunflowers one on top of the other, and then they're like pressing it like with a thing that they have to like turn in order for it to get closer and closer and closer, and press and press and press. And like the whole process is taking them like hours just to get, you know, a standard liter of sunflowers or sunflower oil, you know. And I can remember even my grandmother would take coconuts to get coconut oil out of them, and she would spend hours just like heating up the meat of the coconut and pressing it and all this stuff. And and we'd get like a cup of coconut oil from that, if that, you know. And it was just like, okay, that is a way, I guess, that could work if, you know, you're gonna dedicate all that fucking time to it, sure. But like, you know, that we have technology that like literally just does all that in like minutes.
Yeah, but not only that, like, yes, I see your point, but it's not, it doesn't do it.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because in your analogy, yeah, it still produces the result, and there's a better way to do it. This isn't just a better way to do it. It's like a fundamentally best way, and this doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, this would not produce a 5-year-old that can read like my 5-year-old.
Hey. Okay. I talked to this woman yesterday, actually, and she was asking about TechnoTutor, and I gave her the pitch, and then she's like, okay, that's cool. She's like, and then I started showing her some examples of like max reading, you know, all that stuff. And she's like, that's cool. But my kid's 5, he already reads. He's like, I'm like, so I guess what are you into? Are you into like homeschool or private school, public school? She's like, actually, my son goes to a public school. It's like a really great public school. Really, really love it. He's in kindergarten right now or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool. So
okay, go ahead.
Let me. So I asked her, I'm like, so she's like, yeah, he loves it. He reads. He's like doing math, like multiplication. He comes home doing multiplication. In fact, he was in the car the other day, and like he just like buckles up and he's like, okay, who wants to ask me math questions? And like she's so excited about all this. I'm like, okay, cool. So just like out of curiosity, would you say that like all the other kids in his class are like that enthusiastic about learning and reading and all those things like he is? And she's like, no. And I'm like, so I mean, it sounds like you got a really brilliant kid, and it's not necessarily the school. Would you agree? And she's like, yeah, you're right. But like the whole time, like she was like really trying to sell me on this idea that like this is an amazing school. We did the right thing for, you know, him and everything. And she's like, yeah. And then she's like, my daughter is not like that at all. Actually, she goes to the same school.
That's the thing. And every time, if the parent has multiple kids, they'll be like, oh, our, you know, little Johnny, he was reading when he was 4 years old or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, what about Susie and Billy?
Yeah.
It's like, we had the reader. It's like, no, dude, like this is just standard in our house. Everybody. Even this morning, like I was the only one awake with Caius this morning. It's like 6 in the morning or whatever. And he's sitting there. I don't even think I had made any coffee or anything. We were sitting on the couch. We had the fire on, and he comes over and I have a little blanket, and we're sitting there, and he goes over and he brings a bunch of books, like a stack of books, like some novels, some kid book. I think actually they were all adult books, actually, like, you know, novel type stuff. And he sits down and he goes, book, like he's trying to say book, right? And he gives me one, and then he has one, and he like opens it up, and he's just like looking at it, like it's just text, and he's just like looking at it, like, and he goes, and I look, and he's pointing at an A, right? And then he like turns the page and he goes, ah, and he's like basically just looking in finding letters. And I'm like, do you see any O's? And
Yeah.
he turns to the page and he starts looking for a while and he points at it. Right. And then he finds the S and everything. You can ask him, right?
Yeah.
But the other interesting thing too about with the kid reading in kindergarten, it's like, oh yeah, my kid's in kindergarten, they're reading. It's like, if my daughter was in kindergarten and reading at the ability she's reading, what would she be learning in kindergarten?
Nothing. Yeah.
Is that kid reading at that level? Like he's in kindergarten and he can read at that level, which definitely none of the other kids can. What is he doing there?
Right.
And he's learning multiplication also, like in school, and they're all learning multiplication. So all the kids can do multiplication in this
Right.
5-year-old class. Like, give me a fucking break.
Right.
It's like, oh, but look, he said 2 times 2 is 4. I mean, that's a pretty easy one. Like, that doesn't mean you could do multiplication. That mean you're doing multiplication because you remembered 2 times 2 is 4. Doesn't mean you're doing multiplication.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what else you want to say about that other video, but it's like trying to get something across. You know what I mean? It's like trying to get a person to understand something when it's not about understanding. In this context of knowing the letters,
Yeah.
You don't need to.
Also, okay. Are you gonna go through reading and be like, "R, you, g"? Like, is that how you're gonna read?
So the argument would be, it's to get you to the point where you can just automatically know it. So you're trying to go through this route. It'd be like trying to get on the Oregon Trail to go and from here all the Oregon Trail in the 1800s to get some groceries, when literally you could just be like, I'm just going to order some online.
When I first saw it,
because most likely you ain't going to get to Oregon.
When I first saw it, I thought that she was trying to teach sign language. I thought this is like a new sign language. Just like, let me just talk to you real quick.
So yeah, so I'm like, I'm not dissing this teacher again because she doesn't know. You know what I mean? But
you're not dissing her.
When you really, no, I know, but I'm just clarifying the point because I know people are going to be like, especially the women are going to be like, oh, but she's a wonderful, compassionate human being who's trying to help children and all this. I'm like, no. She's just a normal fucking person like anybody else. And she's doing her job and she's probably trying hard. And she also got a TikTok. So she's trying to do all that stuff, right? But it's like, do you want something that works or something that just looks like it works?
Yeah.
Because what she's fundamentally doing is not any different than what any other teacher ever did. The ones that tried hard.
Yeah. It's funny.
And
Katie also sent me a video of this older lady saying like, when you're reading the word said, it's got 3 sounds.
Oh yeah.
You saw that one? And it's like, it's got.
Yeah. Do you have that one? Dude, do that one too.
Let me look for it real quick.
That one was good.
When I saw that one, I was like, what? How are you? It's got 3 sounds. What are the 3 sounds? I'm like, how is a child supposed to know this? The 3 sounds. Like I hear one sound.
Because that one's, we could talk about that one too. That was good. Because again, it's like, so you have to remember A so that you can remember B. What if you could just know B?
Yeah.
And like, and the thing is, people are like, well, but you have, dude.
Oh, here it is.
Let me think of an example real quick. I saw a video. I don't remember where I saw it, but it was like maybe like a YouTube short or something. And it was like this mom holding her baby, like a little toddler, like a little baby, like, I don't know, 5-6 months, something like that. Maybe. And the dad was going, like a bodybuilder kind of thing. And then the baby would be like trying to mimic it. Right. I'm like, that's how kids learn.
Yeah.
They see it, they just absorb it and they copy it. And he didn't go, okay, I'm gonna move my arm like this. And then, and then that's like, think about the moon, a crescent, arm movement. Okay, now I'm gonna grunt. Think gorilla, grunting. Now I'm grunting. It's like, no, he just does it and they copy it. It like absorbs. Yeah. That's how the fucking natural learning ability works. And so what I really want everyone to take away is that all these apparent fucking certified dyslexia expert teachers bullshit, they don't know what the fuck they're doing because they're not working with the natural learning ability.
I saw a no, I actually have a video. I have a video of have you seen it? Christine and Hazel, and Hazel's like in Christine's arms, and Christine is like eating a sandwich.
Yeah.
And Hazel's just like watching her, and she goes,
Right.
like-
It's just copying. That
And
it's actually just mimicking. That's
that
how
point-
people learn.
to that point, she's never even had anything in her mouth other than like, Christine's breast for milk, like being breastfed. But like she's like never had food, and she's watching Christine eat, and she's like,
Right.
that's what you're supposed to do,
It's just mimicking.
Yeah, we'll watch this one real quick.
Okay.
Memorizing sight words. Do this instead. This word says said. How many sounds do you hear in the word said? I hear 3 sounds. S, e, d. So I'm going to draw 3 lines. The first sound I hear in said is s. And the last sound I hear is d. But the middle sound says eh, and that's the tricky part. It's not spelled like we would think with a short e. That's the part we have to learn by heart. In this word, the sound of eh is spelled with an A, I. And since that's the tricky part, we're going to put a heart there. Focusing on just the tricky part helps our brain map those letters to those sounds and gets that word into our long-term memory more easily.
Okay, all right. So first off, I just want to say the woman from the first video would have a fit with this woman. The way she pronounced her D, she was like, duh. And the first one was like, no, we chop up so we don't have that schwa. We don't have the we have the d.
What was the schwa? I
That's called a
understand
schwa.
What is?
Like the duh.
Oh, the duh. Okay, said
Yeah,
duh.
yeah, it's d.
Yeah.
But there's still a schwa there. Anyway, but the other part is okay, Katie said after she sent this, she said, okay, now do RAID. RAID. It's spelled exactly the same, only the difference is R, right? So
And there is the word red, R-E-D.
yeah. Are you gonna put a heart over all these? Like
So and then the word set is S-E-T.
yeah. Christine says made.
S-A-I-L is sail.
Made and then made. M-A-D-E, M-A-I-D, like
So, but but the question is, how do you know that this one follows that pattern or that rule or is set like that? And then how do you remember?
I just heard this as well.
said. What triggers you to go? Said is one of the words that's not spelled like I think it sounds, and I have to remember that it's done. It's like if we could just do this enough, we'll get it to the point where it's long term. You've memorized it and you know it. And so the one key point is to show what we're trying to explain with technometer, which again, you sit down with somebody, they show it to you, it all makes sense. I'm deliberately being vague because I'm not trying to tell you how it works here, but it just goes and puts it right in. Like you don't have to fucking go through the. So it's funny because they're like saying you don't want to memorize sight words, but you have to memorize something else. Stop trying to fucking memorize stuff. Go ahead.
Check this one out. This one. So I've actually been following this guy for a while because he sits down with like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old and teaches them phonics, right? But he's like super popular for parents who are like, I want to get my kid to read. So I'm like, okay, what's he putting out that parents are like, responding to? And Katie sent me this one. I hadn't seen this one. She sent it to me, and he starts off because I think it's going to cut off. One thing I've noticed
is that sometimes when I show you something's wrong, it shuts you down. It makes you frustrated. Okay, I need you to let go of that. Getting things wrong is okay. Okay, and we're not going to become a reader until we understand we can get things wrong. So anything that is yellow, I want you to just know I'm going to teach it to you. It's okay. It's not a big deal.
Fig.
Fuss?
Fig.
Think.
Mm-hmm. She's trying to read.
Something I want to say that you're doing really well is I've highlighted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 mistakes. And every single time I did it, you just kept going to the next word. Okay? That's really good. It means you're getting older. You're getting wiser. Okay?
I'm almost 8.
You are. And you're doing a better job. Okay? The words are getting harder, but every time you get to a word, you're continuing to sound it out. You're continuing to try. And that's really good. That's what we want to see. Okay? I don't care if every
Okay, the point there was she's almost 8.
And it did, and like, I know you know this. It's like with Technotutor, I would just be like, okay, let's go through and look at what letters you haven't integrated. Then we'll get to the words, and then she would
Right.
know those words within a few months, or months, like less. But you know what I mean, like depending on the
Yeah.
person. And it's
Yeah.
like, and then you're moving on. And instead, they're trying to. Well, what were you going to say about it?
I was just gonna say, I remember you had a meeting where you literally pulled up 4th grade words, and Seneca was still 4 at that time. And you're like, hey, Seneca, I'm just gonna point out some words, and if you know it.
Oh yeah, and it
just-
was like bam, 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 bam.
And she was just like, oh, I can do all these words. She's like, give me harder ones. She's like, do. Like first, like you started off with like 1st grade words, 2nd grade words, 3rd grade words. She's like, can we do another one? Can we do 4th grade? Can we she kept asking for more and more. And it was just like, I'm pointing that out because this poor girl's almost 8, and she can't read the word think, and a lot of the comments on there are, oh my gosh, I need this for my 6.5-year-old, my 7-year-old,
And that's
I'm
like a basic phonetic word.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could maybe think it's think, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not criticizing her. It's just, that's not even like a word that's not phonetic.
Exactly. And so it's just, it's crazy because that's where most people are at right now. And we have the solution for that and way more,
And I saw this thing, someone posted, I think it was Sean or somebody posted like, it's crazy when people brag about not being able to read, right? Or whatever. Or no, maybe it was something you posted, or somebody posted maybe about, no, I think it was something I was thinking about a different one. One you posted, I think of like, it was the one about, oh man, do you remember this one? It was something about people saying it's not important to read or something like that.
Oh yeah. Like a while ago, like I'll just wait till my child's like 7 or 8 to read, because it's not important that they need to be a reader right now. I'm like, okay, but you wouldn't say that.
It was interesting because the person like, who do you know that actually is saying that? And it's
right.
like, you must not be talking to anybody because people will. She's not. I think they weren't realizing the point of people making the excuse of like, oh, they can do it later or something. And I don't know if it was that or maybe there was another point. But I guess my point is just like, there's so many people who can't actually fucking read, and like these kids cannot read. It's not like it's just like there was something else I saw. Somebody was saying something about adult men playing video games, and somebody was like, do you actually know any adults who play video games? Most people I know don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you fucking like living under a rock? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as it's just like a way of trying to brag about yourself, And so it's like, what parents do you hang around with that think reading isn't important? And I'm like, every fucking parent who just puts their kid on an iPad and puts them in school. Yeah. Clearly doesn't think it's important, because if they did, they would be spending every moment with them trying to support them with that if they thought it was important. And what's cool is I know we're kind of maybe taking like a critical point, but we know how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff is just to show like all this random shit that's out there that like people feel like they're doing something about it. Because like in that video, what people get off on is like this good looking guy who's like spending time and he's dedicated and he's helping and he's patient and all that great stuff that the parent could just do. That could just be the mom with her kid. Like, why can't the mom do any of that stuff that he was doing? It's like, well, I just can't be patient with my kid. Well, then that's why your kid fucking can't learn from their mistakes, because of you, because that's your fucking pattern. How is that guy going to change it? All that's going to happen is that she's going to be like, wow, this guy's way fucking cooler than my parents. That's all that's going to happen.
I was talking with a mom yesterday, and this older woman, and she does like legal defense for families that want to do homeschooling and things like that. And she was asking about Technotutor, so I gave her the pitch, and then she's like, "Oh, that's really cool. I personally did not do homeschooling with my children growing up because I saw my sister doing it. Like later on, my younger sister did it, and I just always felt like like you already have kind of a tough relationship with your child. Why are you gonna like create this circumstance where, you know, you're gonna just be together all the time? And it's like, she thought it was a really terrible idea, but she said, but it actually worked out. It actually, like, their problems smoothed out and everything. And it was probably because they incorporated, you know, other people within the neighborhood to homeschool together. And she's like, you know, I can see that and really appreciate it. I didn't do it because I had those thoughts. You know,
Well, it's
that-
interesting point of like, I'm not going to face that point then with my child.
yeah,
I'm just going to leave it as, and that was kind of my point too, of like the parent should be doing it, but then they're like, well, I can't be patient with my kid. And it's like,
right.
you expect somebody else to be patient with your kid who's just acting. They're just pretending. Because what if they're with their own kid? Would they be patient? Because that would imply that you can be patient with your own kid. You're just not developing that point. And that's why everything we're talking about, it's like also about the parent. If you really want to go all the way, not just within helping your child's education in the academic sense, but like also in the context of changing the system, changing the world, like really fundamentally parenting your child differently, you have to then rebuild that relationship or develop it in the first place. Because it's like the person who's the most closely related and like them is like, oh, I can't deal with you. Like that doesn't make sense. Like it's like you're telling the child that there's something wrong with you because there's something wrong with me,
Yeah.
and you're a copy of me.
Yeah.
And I can't deal with you. Like it's,
yeah,
you know, it's just totally fucked. So it's not acceptable. But yeah, I'm
okay,
gonna go
so
ahead.
now
And
let's
like
leave it at
actual
that.
wrap up. I got a
Yeah.
couple more videos to show you real quick. Actually, I got a 3 hour long. No, let's you know what? Let's do live commentary on the John Taylor Gatto underground history lesson. 6 hours, six
Dude.
plus hours.
Yeah, that'd be fun actually. But yeah, no, we'll see you all next week. And Christine says she's down. She actually watched the John Taylor Gatto thing, the interview, and then she like immediately started watching it again. She's like, it was so good, I wanted to watch it again. So she's actually serious.
It is good.
All right. We'll see y'all next week, and have a great week. Bye.
We're still
Bye,
here.
Christine.